Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/culturalstew. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
Please listen carefully.
Welcome to the Cultural Stew Podcast, coming to you from the Goat Factory Media Entertainment Studios. We are your cultural media recommendation podcast, giving you our take on what we think is worth carving your time out for, and also what we think you can pass on and maybe go cut that lawn instead. Warning, we use adult language, and there may be spoilers ahead. Hello and welcome to the Cultural Stew Podcast, episode 24, September 16th, 2018. My name is Ron Herkins Jr., and I am here with my co-hosts,
Tony Carter.
And
Valerie Vidmar.
And
my lovely older sister, Wendy Hacker. I was going to do a big thing, but I didn't know if you were going to say it or not, so I said it.
I couldn't tell.
Technically, this is her second time on the show.
Yeah,
Sort of.
First was silent. This is louder.
Correct.
Silent. Yeah, she was in the other room texting.
Doing research backstage.
She was the executive producer for a show. Oh, what you been up to?
Are you going to go?
You can start.
Me? This week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't really remember because I think it was school. Jason left to go to Ireland on Tuesday. He's back already.
Ireland?
Yeah.
Wow, that was a short trip.
Oh, yeah. Wow. And then Wendy came in on Thursday night late. And then Friday, we went to go see Hair at Jiva. Anyway, it was Kendra, Wendy, and we loved it. I mean, it was obviously it had some differences from. It
hit all the feels for you, though.
Yeah, I don't even remember the stage show when I was 14. I just remember that I really loved it, and I got the record and I listened to it, and then I watched the movie. But the movie is very, very, very different. So when I watched the stage show. They're very different, and they had Claude and Berger, and Claude was totally different.
Yes.
Very different from the movie. From the movie?
Let me just...
Well, in
your opinion, how is he different?
From the movie?
Yeah.
Well, in the movie, he's like this clean-cut guy
from Oklahoma
that just shows up. And in the show, he's a hippie already.
Okay.
And then Berger was the main, like he was Treat Williams. So, it was Treat Williams. Okay. So, back in the day. But I thought they did a great job. I thought the first opening number was great. I really wasn't disappointed by anything. Cool. There was some really there were strong performances. There's a couple songs that I was like crossing my fingers, please, please, please be good. I mean, little songs. Frank Mills, I don't know why I like that song, but I do. And she did a wonderful little job. And then Claude.
One of the funniest is when she pops out of the stage, coming up the sewer with the gas mask on.
Yeah. I had a crush on Claude, and Kendra had a crush on Berger. And then I cried an ugly cry at the end. I mean, it was ugly. Mm-hmm. The lighting, how they did the lighting at the end, I'll just put it that way. And then the snow, it was a little bit too much for me, which is different than the movie. So... a different person dies. Mm-hmm. So that's very different. But we all had a great time.
Did you meet the cast after?
No, we did not. We went to see, Wendy and I were there because Kendra was working the Fringe Festival, so she ran over from the box office. And so Wendy and I went and listened to the pre-show talk.
Okay.
And then we went to
Who did the pre-show for the night you were there?
Oh, I don't know her name, but she was
one of the.
Was it Cheech?
She didn't have a main part correctly, did she?
No, she was part. Her description was ensemble.
Okay.
But she
was one of the three Supremes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and so then Kendra. I guess Kendra and I started off the week going to Bardbender.
Yes, in Rochester, it is Fringe Festival weekend or Fringe Festival
week. It's 11 days.
11 days of Fringe Festival.
They added a day this year, and so I took Zoe on Tuesday, with Shakespeare on a twist on gender, color, and time period to show that anytime you can.
The story is a story.
The story is a story.
Yep.
Although she was completely confused. And I'm not going to lie that there are times where I was completely confused. It has been a while since I have studied Shakespeare, so I was like, okay. And then we went to Cirque du Fringe yesterday, which was really fun. And the girls had a great time. And then Wendy and Kendra and I went to see the slam poetry at the Little. I cried again. I'm a crier. That was really great. And then we ate at Swillburger for the first time. But the skee ball was broken. That's why we went, was to play skee ball.
Oh.
So that was broken. And then we ended the evening with the immersive igloo, which was kind of like, I felt like maybe this was the womb was like, or this is like I'm in a jellyfish, or I don't know. Some of it was he did a good job. There were things that I wondered if he could do with color. I was kind of curious at the different things that he could have done with color. The music was right behind us, so it got really loud in there. But I enjoyed it. I kind of felt a little. Well, Zoe, not Zoe. Sorry, I always do that. Kendra was just like, I'm sure for a moment there, I was under some type of drug. Sure you were. Okay.
Nitrous.
Something. And I kept looking at Wendy thinking, what is she thinking? What were you thinking?
I needed a more comfortable seat.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
You have to eat them.
Yes, that's what I was thinking, because the seating for me was uncomfortable.
That's why I kept telling you to scoot down.
I did, and I tried, and it got worse.
I basically laid down in there. Kendra and I were laying down, and just like our arms are open and open to the experience. I look over at Wendy, and she's like straight up. I kept thinking, I don't know if she's enjoying this, but no, but we had a great time. So the Fringe Festival so far has been
exciting.
Thumbs up.
I must compliment you on your choice of shirt. That is pretty damn cool.
Oh, thank you.
It is, how would you describe that? Paisley in Star Wars?
Definitely.
With a little bit of Mexican flair to it?
Yes. It's
and then
Darth Vader with, diamond eyes.
Oh, nice.
I got this at a Red Wings. This is a Red Wings hat with Darth Vader on.
Oh, it must be from Star Wars Night?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And they had one left, so we grabbed it.
Sweet.
Good move.
So she has it. She said, I don't understand.
We have theme nights. They're weird.
I think they're fun.
Well, so my boss's son is the general manager for 2 of the AA teams in the Seattle Mariners organization. And he said the only way that they make money is through promotion nights. He said they really don't make money from too much else. They don't get a lot of money from the ball club. So everything that they do is from selling concessions and promotions. So they do everything they can do to get butts in the seats and people to buy things.
Yeah.
So with here, they've been doing a pretty good job lately with, I say, the last 2 years, like with the Rochester Plates, the Star Wars Nights, having a theme night almost every single night you're at the ball club. So it's...
I don't catch up with... I'm not up with the theme night, except that we went... I think when
you went there on plates night, I think,
Yeah,
didn't
you
you?
did.
I did, and I didn't even know what the plates were. I had no
you win?
clue. I was like, what are you talking about at the plates tonight? So I thought it was a separate team. I'm like, oh man, I thought I was going to see okay, that's fine. She's like, Kinder was trying to explain to me. No, it's the same players. They're just the plates tonight.
Gimmicky.
Yeah. We went,
That's very smart.
when we went there with my parents over the summer, we went and it was old time baseball night. So they were the old, original Red Wings team. So they all had the old gear on and they had the old stickball players out there. And it was fun. It's just something different, you know, especially for kids. They're just like to see something different instead of the same old thing that they go and see every single time.
Yeah,
Everybody likes fireworks.
The fireworks. I mean, when Kinder went a few years ago, was it Kinder or Dustin? One of them, I can't remember. The theme was Moulin Rouge, and so they were like, "Oh my god, I loved it!" and they freaked out over it. And then this time, I don't know what it was, but they were kind of like, "Oh."
Did they have can dancers on the dugouts?
No. But they had all the music from it.
And they didn't do the research.
I can't even remember. I don't even remember what the music was. All I know is that the girls had a great time. So that's all that counts. Harper was just like, I mean, it was her first game ever. And then to have fireworks there, she was pretty happy. So she's been to two games this season. So, yeah.
Fun. As for me, so with Jiva's hair open, so my Jiva theater season is now in swing, so I'll be doing, I think I'm covering 10 shows for them this year. And Merry Ground is closing down, or not closing down, but winding down their season. So I've got one more show left with them. A little bit of a whirlwind the last couple days. Had a wedding that I covered yesterday. I don't do many weddings, and I only really do them for friends. It's a lot of time on feet and a lot of work, and I had two theater friends that asked me to do their wedding, so I shot it yesterday and got home late last night. And
You're tired.
I'm just a bit wiped out because on top of that, at the beginning of the week, started with me walking into a car dealership and walking out with a new van that I'm going to be using for my adventure photography. And
I saw that.
so it was a big step of what I needed to do. And so I've been spending the week kind of just building out a little bit of the interior so that I actually have a place to sleep, a place for my bike storage, a place for my photography storage, and then the rest can be finished at a later date.
You just need to be finding a river to sleep by.
I basically park it wherever everybody says, the river, van down by the river.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think I've heard that
okay, fine. I'm not original.
5 times. No,
Anyway.
I think it's funny that everybody
Can you
goes
paint
to
it
that.
at least, the outside?
Oh, I am not painting outside.
Okay.
A lot of the ones that people use for the their adventure vans or the vans that they convert into living, they're typically all of them are white, and most of that is for reflectivity of the sun to keep them cooler. I saw this gray one. There was a gray one, a black one, and a white one, and I saw the gray one, and it matched almost the color that I have for our Jeep already. And I like black, but I don't necessarily like black. I like a dark gray. And so that's the color it was. It was there. And I said, what the heck? And I walked in and said, how much, what can we do? And Monday evening, I was driving it home. And as of this morning, got most of the inside built out. And
For what it's worth, Magical Mystery Tour is a bomb. They tried that out. It kind of bombed, so that's what I was thinking when I was thinking of the van.
oh, the outside.
I wasn't thinking Scooby-Doo.
I want to keep it as incognito as possible.
Right, of course.
I'll have a bunch of stickers all over the back of it because that's just me and my stickers find a way. But there won't even be, I'm not going to put my logo on the outside of a sticker just sitting in the back.
Well, that will explain what's in the van.
Yeah, and even though if somebody tried to break in there, it'd be kind of hard for them to get into the back stuff because of how I built it out. It's now you have to get into the back seats, or you have to open the back door to get into anything. Smart. Or have a screwdriver with you to unscrew about 50 screws to get back there. And if somebody's trying to do a smash and grab, they aren't going to take that much time. They're really looking for like, hey, what can we jump in and grab? So I've got curtains so you can't see into the back area. All you can see is really into the front. And I don't keep anything in the front that you can see except for water. So if they really, 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 really want to water, they'll break in.
Tony, anything interesting?
Well, I
How's
had
the baby?
my 10-year reunion yesterday. Or all weekend. Started Friday.
10 years.
10 years from NAS. Yeah.
I feel old.
So do I. So, yeah.
College or high school?
I just hit 20.
College. NAS. They had a
celebrate
family fun time. And Grace wanted to go because they had a carousel kind of kid thing. So that was cool. Hung up the president of college, Don Braidman, a little bit, which is always fun. So, yeah, his grandson.
Name dropper.
I told him I was going to mention him on the podcast. So,
That's cool.
yeah, he took a picture with me. We hung out, we talked a little bit. He was asking me, "What are you doing now? What are you doing now?" So that was exciting. I'm going now in full throttle for hockey training. So I have a strength and conditioning coach, which means I'll be nice and loose and limber and flexible and
Beat up.
until February, and then I go on ice for officially on ice training in February. So yeah,
Fun.
Also, I see Kendra almost every other day at work, which is nice. So
She said
she loves her job, which is nice.
She does, and
The
she's
kids-
good at it.
Yeah, the kids love her, which is great. And
She
stuff.
tells stories like she doesn't, of course.
Yeah.
She seems like a really good
She
storyteller.
tells them without mentioning anything that she can't mention, obviously, but she mentions enough where I am in tears, of course. Again,
We have some great kids there.
I cry a lot. Jeez.
I think it's their hormones, probably.
No, it's
Chemistry?
I have an empathy. You can be
why?
you can be overly empathetic. It's actually
overload is what it is.
Yeah. It's okay.
It's actually a condition. Did you know that?
Empathy or
If there's a condition, I have it. I have too much empathy, and so I
there's no
just
such thing.
I tear up in connection with some things that happen on TV shows.
the hormones probably do have something to do with it
Just
as well.
say we're all empathetic. I mean, I'm an empath, so it makes sense.
But what you said was accurate. Hard work, but rewarding.
And they
Yeah.
put her in that room for a reason because they know she can handle.
Which is
that.
exactly what Karen said.
Yeah. So they
Hard
know
work.
what she can do, and they said we want you to succeed. So here you go.
Yeah.
I tend to find most people that work around children or in that tend to be pretty empathetic.
Or loud, or kids themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
All of the above.
That would be Kendra.
Well, where we work, there's a caliber of
Or an
staff.
actor.
There's people who actually care about the kids, which there are very about 10% of us there actually do care about the kids. We grow to love them,
And
the
then
rest
you
of
have
us.
the people that manage the rest of them.
yeah, exactly. And that's just us who are managing the people who are there for the money and driving us nuts because they're cutting corners and trying to do things that they shouldn't do. So
As she's telling me these stories, I keep thinking, how are you going to let these
Kendra's going to be a
go?
leader someday like me, so it'll be fine.
How is she going to let these kids go?
She stays there and watches them grow until they graduate, and then
You
she'll
get used to it.
She stays with the same ones?
no. But
I
she'll
know. That's
if
what I'm
they
saying.
here's the thing.
Ugh.
If the parents like you and they know you care about their kids, her teacher, her supervisor has been with those same kids for years. So if the team works, they'll keep the dream team together until those kids
Oh,
leave.
that's cool.
If
I
she's
didn't know
lucky.
that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So, yeah, 10-year reunion. Kendra loves her job, which just makes me feel fuzzy and warm because I find a place for her to thrive and not stress out during the day and have art at night. Let's see what else. I'm writing a lot more, so.
Little ones? Growing?
Sebastian's growing. He has a sense of humor now, so he's looking at you and smiling, and then you look at him and smile, stop, and frown, and then he'll smile again. So he does a lot of it's weird. He does these things on purpose. He's a clown.
Pooping gas?
No, these are genuinely
Okay, just
smiles. He's really staring at you, smiling, and then you look at him, he'll stop and pout, and then squint at you, and then he'll start smiling again. So it's that whole aha, I got you kind of things. Marnie, on the other hand, his sister is kind of going through her terrible 2.5 still, and kind of pushing boundaries, and so.
I recommend Boundaries with Children.
Oh, I
book.
believe in them. So.
Did you read the book?
No.
There's boundaries with kids, boundaries with spouses, boundaries with parents. There's a boundary book for everything, and they're fantastic books.
My parents read the book about parenting. Grandparents should stay grandparents and be grandparents and not provide advice to their kids that they don't need or don't overstep their advice. Because my mom has a habit of being overbearing with her desire to, what do you call that? Her desire to nurture and raise her grandchildren. So I said, Mom, I got this, but thank you. I appreciate it, but I can raise my own kids. You can give me advice, but if I don't agree with it, I don't want you behind my ear and still going at me about it. So
Cousins have to work on that too sometimes.
yeah, my brother is raising one of his sons as vegan, and he's only a year old now, and everyone's trying to give him non-vegan food, and I can swat the other hand, like, guys, he's a vegan, so you give him other food, it's going to make his stomach upset. So he went to his cousin's house, and they were having a party, and they gave him Rice Krispies, and he came home sick, and he said, oh, we don't know why he's sick, maybe he just has the flu or something like that. I said, what did he eat? Oh, just the Rice Krispies. I said, well, he's never had sugar before of any kind, so he had pure sugar for the first time ever at a year and a month, and his stomach was torn up, and just that's why he was sick. But they didn't want to say, oh, he had nothing, he's fine. I'm like, no, it's the sugar, he's not used to that. So let's, but he's a vegan. The kid is vegan, so he doesn't know sugar, doesn't know.
So every time you take him somewhere, just put.
Well, no, they have food for him. They said
a
this is what
vegan
he's eating.
shirt on. I'm a vegan.
I think it's too much. People should just respect what you want for your kid and not feed them what they shouldn't eat. But yeah, that's what happened to me. I'm not that exciting this week. I'll be exciting next time, I think. But just reunion, kids going bonkers, and my son being a clown. He's also a chick magnet, by the way, too. Literally, women come to him.
Babies are chick magnets.
No, but see, here's the
It's
thing.
like dogs and puppies.
My friend Isaiah was at reunion, and his wife was there, but usually it's the mother my son's all after and cooing and wooing, but he saw my friend's daughter, and he was like staring at her, like he kept leaning in and looking at her. And I'm like, okay, I know you can't see that well, but he's like literally, holding him, leaning his body weight forward toward her, looking at her. And I'm like,
That sounds
that's
creepy.
It is. I was like, guy,
Creepy.
stop.
That's
You're
not
only,
a chick magnet. That's
you're 4 months.
called
but she was looking
something
at him too. Like, she saw him first thing and stared at him, and then he started leaning in, looking at her too. And I'm like, okay, guys,
Am I
I don't want to
reading
be
this
married.
wrong?
It's
Are you
weird.
saying this wrong?
It's weird.
Okay, that's.
My son loves women to the point where he knows when a woman's around him, and he'll instantly make eye contact with them.
Are you talking about your son?
My son,
is
Sebastian.
looking at somebody
And
else.
then women will come toward him, and then he'll want to. It's just a whole.
I read that totally wrong.
Womanizing.
I thought there was some. Never mind.
No, my son's a womanizer, and he's only 3 months.
Okay.
But we're moving on.
Moving on.
On that. So Valerie kind of summed up most of what you've done so far. Anything else exciting? Wendy?
Well, my big news at home was trying to choose our fall musical, because I direct the play at the high school. And we initially applied for rights to Carousel, and they denied us at first. And I had to write them an appealing email explaining that St. John High School we've got 125 students, grades 7 through 12. Our town is maybe 1,000 people, and that we are not going to pull revenue or alter anyone's experience from going to a larger production of it somewhere else. And because anything closer would be Kansas City, which is 5 hours to the east of us. And finally, they told me it was going to take a month for the appeal, and I started to get really panicked because our show is in November, and you can't take a month from here on out to do that because our kids are so busy and everything else. Our rehearsal schedule is very tight. And then no longer did they say that. Then the next day they gave us the rights.
Sweet.
So we were really excited. So that's what.
Are they going to send Josh Henry down to do some choreography?
Probably not. Probably not. But
I would have made that request.
yeah. The kids, however, were a little disappointed to find out that Kendra was no longer in St. John. And that I said, well, I will be consulting her for set design and things like that. But yeah, she's out trying to tackle the big world and not here in St. John anymore. So anyway, that was our big news.
Quick question. They initially rejected your application. Why? Because of your...
They didn't give us a reason. And I just appealed on the fact that, make sure you know how small we are and that we're not going to make an impact. Because today is the final day of Carousel on Broadway.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why.
And I have a feeling that may have been an impact on that. But They're closing today.
Makes sense.
Yeah, some shows let licenses happen even if they're running something on Broadway for a subset, but most don't. Even if it's like a revival back on Broadway, they'll cut off licensing until...
We could do Hedwig
Like
next
Angels did
year.
that.
Yes, sure. Mm-hmm.
I guess that makes sense. Okay.
All right. Well, let's move into the news. What do we got in the news? Looks like a few
This one,
things.
Wendy can say this one because I don't watch Westworld. But Jason does.
Yeah. Westworld's adding Aaron Paul.
Aaron Paul from
Breaking Bad.
There
Breaking
we go.
Bad.
Yeah.
Yes. And I haven't researched that as much, so I don't know what kind of role he might have. But I do know that the upcoming season sounds intriguing just from the final episode.
Yeah,
of
we're
season
breaking out of
2.
the park now. So
Yes. And however, I found season 2 to be highly confusing. I don't know why. Maybe it was when I was watching it later in the evening, but
it felt to me it was a much more disjointed timeline. Whereas the first one,
definitely.
you didn't know if it was a different timeline. It just kind of all of a sudden you're like, oh, at the end of the show, you're like, I'm watching 2 different timelines. So you go into season 2, it's like, these are definitely 2 different timelines, and we're watching the story played backwards. And like the whole, was the last 2 episodes were like, okay.
Yeah. I couldn't tell where we were when we were half the time. So that was confusing.
Yeah, my wife often hears, because she'll go and watch, she loves her Grey's Anatomy, so she'll go and watch Grey's Anatomy on repeat for the 15,000th time on Netflix on her iPad, and she'll hear me from the living room, what the hell is that? Just constantly during that show, just because you're like, are you kidding me? Just like these little tiny little twists that you're like, oh, okay, well now they just threw that up, but give up.
Yes.
Did we cover this last week? Bond 25.
I don't think...
The last thing we talked about Bond was they lost the director.
Right.
And
This is presumably his last time. Does that mean it might not be?
he said at the end of the last one that he wasn't coming back to do Bond 25 because he injured himself pretty bad during filming of the other one, and he just said it would take a lot for him to come back and film one more. But he did confirm somewhere over the last year or so that he was coming back, and Danny Boyle was supposed to be the director, and so I think that was kind of the last little push of him to be signed on for doing 25. But Danny Boyle is now not the director
Because they have creative differences?
Something. I think there was a casting in one of the choices, and Danny Boyle decided to step away from it because of one of the casting choices.
So now it's going to be 2020 instead of 2019.
Yeah, we get pushed back another year.
Well, at least a few months.
Wasn't it the original writer who wrote the original script before Danny came on? Aren't they back now? The old crew that was there originally, didn't they bring them back? Or
I'm not sure. I haven't
I was hearing mixed things.
read too much the last 2 weeks. So
Okay.
It's not called Bond 25. It's just
no,
not
it's
named
just
yet.
yeah. Every time until they have a name, they usually give them numbers.
Checking. Okay. Because I was like, that's lame. Okay.
Yeah, because this was part of we were talking about, what's his name?
Danny or
No.
we're talking about
Idris Elba.
Yeah, Idris. Yes, being Bond
Was being talked about by being the next Bond, not for 25, but for 26. And when they pushed this back to 2020, I'm like, okay, well, on average, the Bond films are taking almost 5 years coming out. And so if you're saying 20 and you're adding another 3 to 5 years, you're looking at 2023 to 2025. Idris Elba is a great physically in shape guy, but he's not at that age what you would consider a Bond. I mean, Sean Connery was already retired from Bond at the age that Idris Elba would be as coming out in those years. So that kind of threw Idris Elba out of the mix. But the talk that I heard was, what was the other guy?
Tom Hiddleston.
No, it was an African American actor.
You mean
Daniel? Was it? I think it was Daniel Glover.
Danny Glover?
No,
Not Danny. What's his name?
No, Daniel Glover.
You mean Glover's son?
No.
No,
He's talking about
he's
the
on
up-and-coming
Atlanta.
actor. He's
Oh, sorry.
Childish Gambino.
Childish Gambino.
Yeah.
He does the show Atlanta on FX.
He's on the not Mission to Mars, but I know what you mean. He's in that Mars movie with Matt Damon, plays a genius kid.
So I've heard his name. I've heard Michael B. Jordan's name. Michael B. Jordan, I don't think could play a Bond. Glover, I could see playing a Bond after watching him play Larusso.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
Lando in Solo. I think he would make a very good Bond. So there's a small little
window. Yeah.
window. But in other news, Burt Reynolds died.
Yes.
I was devastated, frankly.
Were you really?
Yes. Because I've watched him in so many things, including Gunsmoke, which I loved him in Gunsmoke and the early years.
I remember walking in when my
didn't
dad
know
was
that.
watching
I'm sorry.
Gunsmoke, and I walked in. I'm like,
What?
"Is that Burt?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Whoa!" To see such a young Burt Reynolds was crazy.
Yeah.
You didn't know he died?
Yes, I knew he died. I was not devastated. I didn't know she was devastated. I felt bad.
Well, and
My biggest
Sorry.
connection was, Smokey and the Bandit.
Yes.
Even though I always
I loved
confused
Smokey and the Bandit.
that he was actually the Bandit, not called Smokey.
I was thinking about, his chicks and how they felt.
oh,
He's always been him and that mustache. Yeah,
How does Sally Field feel? How does Lonnie Anderson feel?
Debbie Reynolds.
Well, she's not feeling.
well, and somebody said too that means I guess he won't be
I
in
was
the next
thinking-
Cannonball Run.
Yeah. Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
Yeah, he's in that other movie too that I can't stand.
Boogie Nights.
Why can't you stand that
I
movie?
just can't. That's I
okay.
just can't. That's all.
It's okay. I have no hard connections to that movie.
And he's
so
also in Striptease, correct? He
don't
plays
know.
a complete sleazebag in that movie too.
I don't know. I wasn't into his more recent work or the later years. I was an earlier years fan.
I'm definitely an earlier years fan. Definitely. But his later movies I wasn't really into.
And another thing that died or has actually been put in on an indefinite hold, the Oscars popular category.
Are you going to blame somebody?
I am.
Am I going to blame somebody? No.
Go for it.
Well, it's two people I heard were the cause of that, Spielberg and Dern. So I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying they were probably very vocal about it during a meeting. So.
I think it was more than just two people. It was a very, very vocal portion of Hollywood that is at that board. I don't know if when they went to vote to go release Let's Have a Popular Vote that these people were not at the meeting or were asleep at the meeting.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I understand correctly. You want an Oscar to go to the movie that grosses the most money or sells the most tickets?
No. I would have, if they went ahead with this, my definition, what I think would have been a good area to go would to split the movies into market. So if you have a movie that's only been opened at 5, maybe 10 theaters versus a movie that was released in, let's say, March or April and it was at 300 to 500 theaters, that it's hard.
Give an example.
All right, Shape of Water would be as close as I can get right now. So Shape of Water was opened right at the end of the year, right before Oscar cutoff, and it was only released to a very few select ones so that it can make the Oscar cutoff, and didn't really open up to a wide release until, what was it, end of January, almost beginning of February. It was almost time for Oscars before the average person who could actually go to the theater to see a movie like that was able to see it. So it was released in New York City, Texas, Chicago, and LA in very few theaters. and then it was all of a sudden it was nominated for a Best Oscar.
But everybody who is in the Oscar, who votes for who's on the
Academy.
Thank you. Would receive a copy of it, correct?
Right.
Yes.
But what I'm pointing out is the key of what they want to do is make the Oscars make the Oscars great again. No, make the Oscars relatable in a way that helps people you're nominating a movie that most people didn't even have a chance to go see. So you're putting it up against a movie like, I guess Logan would have been the best example, that it was brought out in February of March of the year before, and that was released to a big 300 to 400, 500 market share of
Logan
things.
was represented.
Right. But it was released so early in the year, and it was released to many theaters, that by the time you get to the Oscar season, it's kind of gets put on the back burner. And so what I would have been comfortable with if they decided to do that was to say, okay, if a movie is going to be released in less than, let's say, 50 theaters, all right, you have basically independent film category, and then you have full market share category. Not so much a popular film category, but more one that it's like, hey, everybody in the United States, basically, if you had a theater near you, you had a chance to go see this movie. And
why does that matter?
Why not?
I think maybe it's to make the Oscars more popular.
Right.
Because as a person who really likes the Oscars, because I like film, I would say living in central Kansas, I probably saw
I think that's where I'm trying to go with that, is that like by the time it comes up to the Oscars, a lot of people like to go and see the Oscar movies. But if you live someplace where these Oscar movies aren't available, you can't see them.
Yeah. Because most of the ones that were up for Best Picture, I couldn't even see unless I had gone clear to Kansas City or something, because it was only regionally released.
And so,
but they're never going to have.
No, it's because the market's changed. And I'm not saying, let's say, oh, you made $1 billion. You're gonna automatically get it in there. No, it's more so, hey, you released to X amount of theaters, and you're an A+ film. Instead of, hey, here's 5 A+ films that only released to 10 to 15 theaters. We're going to give them recognition, and we're going to push all these other ones out.
I'm telling you, they're going to be A+ films that were released to
I'm sorry, there's some stuff.
And thousands of theaters that are not released in Kansas.
There's some stuff on that list.
Small town Kansas.
Okay, there was some stuff on that list last year that should not have been on the list.
Oklahoma,
so I'm just saying it's a way. It would be a way for them to.
For example,
I'm not going through the list right. We already go back to the Oscar thing. And I've got my list in there.
Okay.
There were a couple of them in there, but it's a way to balance out the bigger movies versus the smaller independent movies.
I don't. But this kind of goes against your whole thing about Netflix too. I mean, you want the smaller movies to be able to, the smaller movies to be able to be seen and to be heard, but now you're saying now you don't want them to be counted if they don't come out in time and they're not.
That's not
big
what
enough.
I'm saying.
What I'm saying, like with the Netflix thing, with the if they aren't going out into the movie theaters, is that what you're saying? Remember about the whole Netflix?
That Spielberg was saying that he doesn't think that
right.
that Netflix and streaming movies should be counted as films because they're on a different platform. They're not on a big screen.
You're taking my words the wrong way. I'm not saying they shouldn't be counted as films. I would still consider those the best films. It's recategorizing how the category would work, how that popular category would work. It wouldn't be, hey, you made $1 billion. It'd be more like, hey, you opened to 300 to 500 theaters. Here is your category. You open to X amount of theaters, but it trickles down into the, hey, if you opened up to 500 theaters and you're the best of the best, you're getting put in this category regardless.
Right.
There were some things that opened up to very, very few theaters that I just I wouldn't have put on the list. So
Baby Boss. But
What?
I said Baby Boss, but that's a
Oh my God.
well, that wasn't on the best picture list.
It wanted to be.
It wanted to be?
Most animated films try to get on Best Picture because Toy Story, I think, was the last really good animated film that made Best Picture, but it didn't win. They made a category just for it because it was competing. Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about this, I guess. Still.
I think their terminology of coming out and saying popular film category is what threw it in the wrong
That's
direction.
what threw me in the wrong direction.
Yeah. They needed it.
Like high school.
I think there's many movies out there that need to get recognition for what they're doing to the movie industry as a whole, because they are making it possible for those ones that only can get out to 5 or 10 movie theaters and actually make a film. That they're being made possible because there is a market out there that they can tap into.
So instead of popular, it should have been wide market and small market or something.
There's a way to do it. I think there just needs to be a lot of discussion and better way to figure it out. Because you can't look at a film for like this series and this year and say, hey, every time I say series, she thinks I said Siri.
Apple, fix it.
And I'm not saying it's the best film of the year. I'm just saying of what it's done to the market is a film like Black Panther. It was a pretty solid film through and through, but will it get any recognition as a top contender?
No.
By the time the end of the year come out, probably not. And there will be, out of the list of 10, there will be 3 to 4 films I've never heard of. And it's because the market was so small and they're just being put out, whether they go through the Toronto Film Festival and then get shoved into something. But it gives more of a legitimate chance also to those that do come through Netflix or Amazon, an ability to say, oh, they're considered a small market. So now they can actually get a proper nod into a category.
But there are some movies that are nominated for Academy Awards that people are just not going to see no matter what.
Right.
Even if they've heard of them or not. So you may have heard of them, but decided I'm not going to go to that. Right?
It could be, but
true. But
talk
I don't
about
think,
small
I don't
town
think
Kansas.
that means that it just
how many theaters do you have in your town?
None.
None.
We have to drive at least 30 minutes.
Okay. And then how many theaters are at that 30?
One. I mean,
How many screens?
there are, I think, 6 screens.
And
Okay.
are they going to show anything that's not?
Perhaps later. I mean, way later than when
So
they're
most
initially
likely
released.
anything that's on the Oscar nominated list, you probably wouldn't be able to see until 3 to 6 months after the Oscars. most
Maybe.
likely.
chance.
Maybe.
Right.
So they're doing commercial
And
films.
so what you're going to see is stuff that are
Popular, like big
Mass.
money. Like, yeah.
Well, and the other thing is, too, is when they do bring in some of those shows, it lasts 1 week.
rental
Because
fees.
nobody wants to go see those shows.
And so then they're gone.
Very
Because-
camp,
So
right.
it's a small window of time.
Sad.
And I don't think that means there are still movies that people are going to go to, whether or not they wide release or limited release. That doesn't, it's going to not be, that's why popular doesn't make sense.
It's a high school
Yeah,
category.
the popular definition was the wrong way for them to go about it. And nobody ever really put out like, hey, this is what we're thinking and where we're trying to go with it. But I think there needs to be something in the way that the animated feature was added, the same way that the documentary films are, or the short films. There needs to be a
Because
way.
that's a totally different type of thing.
What do you mean?
Because it's a completely different type of film.
We're just talking about the name.
But it wasn't considered a
title.
different type of film for what? 10? 10? Was it? When did they release the animated? It was.
But animated obviously has
7?
What's that?
people that
96,
draw
97,
it.
98. Like Toy Story 1 came out
Or
in 96, right?
peers.
Somewhere around that time.
paired to
So,
actors.
I mean, Snow White, I think, won Best Picture way back when, but Toy Story came out in the mid 90s, like a little.
Right. But they were always,
Lumping
you're
it together.
always competing against regular
Live action.
action films and that had a more of an artsy.
Then watch
Feel
the
them.
MTV Awards.
That's what my dad said.
We can argue about this all the time. You're not getting where I'm trying to go with this. I'm not trying to make it a popular film category. I'm saying what they were trying to do with it was headed in the wrong direction. There needs to be a different category that addresses these type of films. These
maybe they should be
films.
out for a certain. Maybe they should be out longer before they're considered. Like maybe they should be out released for at least.
Qualifications for.
Well, that would fall right into wide release versus limited release. Almost everything that's coming out on that short release window right before the Oscars would be considered a limited release.
What I'm saying is, why couldn't they just say to be considered to be on the best picture list, you have to be at least in the theaters for what?
X amount of months?
5 weeks, 10 weeks?
Well, there already is things in place for that. But they're limited release, so they only have to release them in 10 theaters. That's their Oscar thing.
So what
That's
you're
the same
saying
thing
is,
with like Netflix. That's how a Netflix movie can get nominated. That's how Mudbound got in there because they had to put it on
I don't
10.
have a problem with them saying that they need to be in for 10 weeks and they need to hit this many theaters. Is that what you're saying? They need to hit at least which one? 500 theaters?
That's already there. You're not going to release a movie like Shape of Water in 500 theaters before Christmas, before Oscar time cutoff. It's just not going to happen. It's an art movie that is maybe cost a couple $1 million to make, is only going to make a couple $1 million in return.
We can talk about this forever.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's move on. We'll agree to disagree at this moment.
It's all right.
So what else we got? Brie Larson has images coming up for Captain Marvel. That was exciting. We've been waiting for the real ones for a very long time.
Finally, but still no trailer.
I see a lot of fan-made ones. They look awesome. So I'm hoping that the film actually is awesome because I saw a Green Lantern trailer and that was so much better. I think Nathan Fillion was in that fan-made trailer. He wasn't really in it, but someone cut up a whole bunch of Nathan Fillion movies and TV shows and made a really awesome Green Lantern trailer. And then Ryan Reynolds' version came out and it was pretty bad. So
Who is she going to play?
Brie
She's Captain
Larson is Captain Marvel.
I didn't know that Captain Marvel was a female.
many people
Are
don't.
you biased? Captains only should be men?
No. I really thought that Captain Marvel was a man.
He
My mom
is
did
in DC.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's also known as Shazam.
Oh, okay.
There's two. It's weird.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's
No,
just
I'm not.
the weird comment.
Give me a break. Am I? Okay. No.
Yes, Captain Marvel, Brie Larson.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, she was a captain, Air Force captain pilot.
Yes.
So that's where she gets her captain
cool.
from. But she's alive and existing in the Marvel universe. She just has been MIA. And so Captain Marvel is actually going to take place during the 80s and early 90s. And so we'll go back in time and we got Nick Fury with two eyes.
Again.
And a lot of the baddies from the Guardians of the Galaxy universe are going to get mixed in. So I'm looking forward to it. I've been waiting for a Captain Marvel movie since they started making Marvel movies. Doctor Who Season 11 premieres October 7th with the new Doctor.
I don't want to go on a mini rant about this. I still think that we live in an age and a day where we can watch this series at the same time as the British people. I'm not sure why we can't, because we're waiting a whole year and a half when they can watch. It's just my British friends tease me repeatedly.
BBC America.
I know, but not
Apple TV. I just watch the BBC America. I can watch it like the next day.
I mean, this is for the lay person who doesn't have BBC America. Just people are
that's
waiting.
because they pump it through PBS. So you're waiting for the PBS.
Yeah, Masterpiece Theater.
But,
yeah.
yeah.
Sad. Just ran over. But yeah, I'm excited. My sister-in-law, Sarah, who don't get mad at me because I'm going to put you out there, said she doesn't want a female doctor and she's not excited at all. She went on a whole rant about it for 2 hours straight. I'm like, can I say anything? Nope. So went from costume. Yeah.
I was not a Peter Capaldi fan.
I wasn't either.
However, I love, and I'm sorry I don't have her name off the top of my head, but I loved her work on Broadchurch, so I can't wait to see what she's
Ooh, I like her.
I can't wait to see what she's going to bring
That's
to
her?
it. Yes.
Oh.
The one who played the mother.
Jodie.
Yeah, I like her a lot.
Jodie Whittaker.
She's a fantastic actress.
Yeah, and like I said, I really didn't care for
love
Peter
Broadchurch.
Capaldi.
I love Broadchurch.
And
Sorry.
So I'm looking forward. I
Partridge,
loved
awesome.
what little tease I got in the trailer of her.
That'd be
So
good.
it's coming a lot sooner than anticipated. So October 7th instead of waiting for another Christmas to come by. And
Late. And Downton's coming back as a movie, so that's exciting. But then again, I feel like I'm the only Downton fan still around. So.
There's
No.
2 of them here.
Good.
like all of the theater
Yes.
community,
Yeah.
trust me.
I'm looking forward to
about
it.
the only one in the theater community who isn't a fan.
It took a while for me to get into it, but I like it. So
It's too
slow. All right.
That's okay.
it's slow, but there are slow things I like watching.
Right.
It's slow in a way that I would rather watch an old lady drink tea.
Wow.
The Queen can drink it pretty fast, so you can.
That happens on there.
I know. That
If
would
you
be
wanna-
more exciting.
I can be less popular than you.
It feels like a soap opera set
has its
in
moments.
In a way.
and I just
1912, yeah. It has its moments.
The Queen, right?
the
Yeah.
Claire, the
The
one on
show?
Netflix, The
Yeah.
Crown.
The Crown.
Yes.
The Crown.
There is one that's the Queen. That's a movie.
Season 2 kind of dragged for me, but I still watched it. So.
Yeah. That's my Downton Abbey for you.
Crown.
Yeah.
Season 1 was so much
You
better.
didn't like it?
It did not make me want to go, oh, gotta get the next one. Gotta get the
I think
next
it's
one,
well
gotta get the next
acted. I think I made it through maybe 5 episodes, and I haven't gone back to it. And
Me
now they're
neither.
like getting ready for season 3 with
I'm
People
hoping
new
love
that's
it.
better.
actors. And I was like,
People love it. They go crazy over it. And
she plays
Jason.
the new girl with the girl
Dragon
with the
tattoo.
dragon tattoo. Claire
Yeah.
Foy took over that role.
Because Claire is no longer in The Crown. Her and Matt are leaving The Crown, and they have new people
She's
now.
also in
Because
First
they
Man.
changed the
Oh, that's right.
time period.
Yes.
Right. And yes, she is Ryan Gosling's wife, right?
Yep.
In First Man.
Lucky
Yes.
bitch.
I just heard 2 different things there, so I heard yup and something else. So, okay, that was clever. We're timing. So, but yeah.
And one last piece of news from me. Henry Cavill, who was in the news a lot this week for, is he leaving Superman? Is he not leaving Superman? Frankly, I don't care about that right now. I care that he was actually cast as Geralt in Netflix's The Witcher. So we are actually getting Witcher is a game that was on PlayStation, and it was a phenomenal game. And in the middle of 2 weeks ago, somebody came out with a image of here's what Henry Cavill would look like as this dude, and it was just spot on. And then within 2 days, there was hey, guess what? Henry Cavill was just hired as the lead for The Witcher, and the fact that it's going to be a Netflix show is even kind of cooler. So that's my last piece of news. Anybody
I'm
else?
not sure how I feel about Henry being. I mean, I like him as Superman. I'm just not sure if he's like doing other things that are not Superman-like. So I guess he's breaking the cast mold completely. And
Like I said, the spy movie that he was in,
Man from U.N.C.L.E. or something.
Man from U.N.C.L.E. was phenomenal in terms of how he played a spy. It was perfect for Mission Impossible. I think he's a great actor. He brings a lot of strength to his role, and it'll be fun to see him just dial it back to be Geralt. Okay, so that wraps up the news. Longer than we wanted, but here we go. All right. Oh no, we got some trailers. News is not over.
I can sum it up really quickly if you want for mine too. Sabrina the Teenage Witch has a new trailer.
Yes.
Creepy. But exciting. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Netflix dropped that I think yesterday or sometime, but I saw it yesterday. It was good, but I was creeped out. I was watching it in the dark at night in my bed. I'm like, wow, this is weird.
What?
I did
what
not-
did you watch?
Sabrina the Teenage Witch has a nice theme song. Has a new teaser from Netflix coming out, and it's kind of eerie, like really like sinister, and just like watching the.
It was in my
craft.
queue, and I did not get back to actually looking at it. And the only image I saw was with her standing in the middle of the woods. I was like, "Oh, gotta see this."
Also, the Romanovs has a.
Do you remember
trailer.
Sabrina, the Teenage Witch that
Melissa
used to
Joan
be Melissa
Yeah.
Joan Hart? Yeah, they're
so-
making a serious version
Okay. Good.
on
'cause
Netflix.
I
I
was
actually
thinking-
remember the comic book. That aged
Yeah.
me a little.
So they're taking a little bit more of a serious, dark turn with
Okay,
it.
because I was
Like The Craft.
I didn't watch that show.
It's TGIF Friday. It's old school stuff for me, I guess. I feel old now. Also, The Romanovs is a anthology series about people who think they are descendants from the Romanov family in Russia. So it should be really good. I think I saw our friend...
Is it Meet the Romanovs? Meet the Parents, Meet the Romanovs?
Could be. What's his name? He's in our favorite war film, Dunkirk. He's also in Jerusalem. He has 2 Tony Awards and 2 Oscars. Bridge of Spies. I'm not getting his name, but... Mark Rylance, I think, is in it.
Mark Rylance.
I think. Saw his face for a second.
He's in that.
He is?
No, I said he's in that.
It looks like I saw his face.
Question mark?
I saw a flash. I said, is that Mark? I don't know. But I think he
Wouldn't
may
surprise
be.
me.
But it looks good. My wife's going to watch it with me because she's all about Russian history and the Romanovs and
When does that come out?
I didn't get a date. I just saw the trailer, so I should look up that. But
Netflix is on a roll because they also released 2 other ones, like Daredevil season 3 trailer.
Yes.
So I'm really pumped for that one because now, I don't know if did you see the trailer? Just
No,
him in the
you just
confessional
saying
room
that to
in
me.
all black, and just blood dripping from his face, and it's like.
I've got to watch that.
And then the other one that I'm really
like
pumped out
Charlie.
because I'm a sucker for Westerns, and I'm a sucker for when the Westerns and Coen brothers combine. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, it's dropping on November 16th as a surprise. It kind of made its way into a couple of the festivals, and it's
That's
got
cool.
Tim Blake Nelson, James Franco, Brendan Gleeson, Liam Neeson, and Tom Waits. And it looks phenomenal. It's beautifully shot. If you've seen a Coen brothers film, you know it's going to be beautifully shot. And the fact that it's just, they're embracing that small market release. Say, hey, we're going to release it in a couple festivals, and we're going to release it on Netflix. So here you go. So that's one of my ones that I'm most excited for now that, just kind of surprise drop.
who's shooting it? Do we know? Is it their usual guy? Is it?
Most likely. I don't think they've really gone outside of that.
Okay. Just checking.
Prime has a new one.
Prime?
Yeah. Amazon Prime has a show, Homecoming, with Julia Roberts. Sissy Spacek is playing her mother, I guess. And basically, it seems to be a mystery or some type of thriller, but Julia Roberts helps soldiers adapt back to civilian life, but they keep asking questions. And Dermot Mulroney they're back together from
My best friend's
my best friend's wedding. Thank you. My brain's not working. My best friend's wedding. So that will start. And then, well, they had another First Man trailer drop. So I watched that one.
Did I tell you what movie was it?
I got chills watching it.
I think it was because I took Mission Impossible. I went and saw that in IMAX. They showed a brief 3 to 5 minutes of 70 mil of First Man. It's got to be the only way to go see it.
I know.
I mean, full on filmed in.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I got goosebumps just watching the trailer just because it looks horrifying for one. It's terrifying because that's my worst nightmare. Trapped in something you can't get out
Go
of.
to space camp for 4 years.
And you, are getting,
It's fun,
possibly
but it's
could
exciting.
die.
Well, you're on a candlestick, as they say. It's a very, very volatile, explosive
And
candlestick. So,
The thing right before them, everyone died. It's just.
Apollo 1?
Did it really go out on the 13th day of the month?
I believe so. I didn't find
Apollo
that out for
13, you mean?
Yeah, Apollo 13. They said that it went out that it went up the 13th day of the month. I hope it wasn't Friday. That's how everybody made it home, so I'm glad that wasn't a bad
No,
joke.
it launched on April 11th.
That's weird. Yeah, that's weird.
It probably was heading toward the moon, and that deorbit burn button push was probably on the 13th, but it takes 3 days to get there. So 2 to 3 days to get to the moon. So it could have been ready to go into moon orbit on the 13th, but
And we watched Bad. some bad footage. I
April
guess.
11th, though.
Okay. April 11th.
Okay. Well, our short show is turning into a long show.
Okay.
We got this.
Let's roll into our recommendation list.
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
I can go first. So we're talking about Ron Howard today and his films. So I thought I would watch one of my favorite films of his. I have a few, actually. By a few, I mean 3. But this one, I think, was one of his first directorial debuts. It was The Nightshift, or Nightshift. It's Michael Keaton's first leading role. Has Ron's co-star from Happy Days, Henry Winkler, and also has Shelley Long in it. And it's a laugh-out-loud comedy. It's about 2 morgue attendants who decided they're going to open a brothel inside of the morgue that they work in late at night, thus Night Shift. It's a very humorous, dark romp for me. So it's something I feel good about laughing about, but it's just that funny. And you see Michael Keaton just being outrageously bold and eccentric, and you see Henry being bookish and nerdish and in his own skin. And it's nice seeing where they come from. Michael's kind of I think he's gotten more serious over time, and Henry's gotten more wide open. Since watching him on Arrested Development, I've seen him just be out there too. And they're both good at comedy in his film. So I'd recommend his film to watch over and over and over again. And if you need a laugh, you should watch it. You can find it on Amazon, you can buy it or rent it, and you can probably find it in Walmart at the bottom of the bin for $5 too. I got it, and it was like in 4x3, which is, not 16:9 or cinemas, but still, watch it. Good.
Okay. I am, I'm 40 minutes from finishing Ozark season 2. I couldn't get it finished. That's pathetic. But I lost sleep over it. Jason was losing sleep over. I mean, the man was leaving, and we can't stop there. Mm-hmm. And you had to okay, we have to get to the next episode. So I was excited that I liked it, that it kept my interest as much as season 1 did. That was, I at least was interested in figuring out, okay, let's see what's going on. So I liked that part. I did finish Castle Rock season 1. It does sound like you're saying Fraggle Rock, or it's like something like School Rock. No, okay, it's not.
Castle Rock.
Not the same thing. So Castle Rock season 1. I love the series. The last 2 to 3 episodes actually were very different than the episodes that precede them.
So they've got all the episodes are up now?
Right.
Okay.
I'm not done, am I?
No, I was just asking they've got all the episodes.
I don't think I'm done. Shoot. A bug. Okay. So
because I'm not going to go back and watch them until all the episodes are done, because it's that whole wait a week.
I forget that they do it that way. So this is on Hulu, correct? Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is on Hulu, and I forget they're not like Netflix, and they don't release them all. So when Dustin was in town, we and Kendra, we all got in, and we were like watching him. Okay, we're gonna get it finished, and then we realized, they're still releasing them. Oh my gosh. And he doesn't get Hulu, but he probably does now.
There were 10 episodes.
There's 10 episodes. Oh.
So the last one was Romans.
I think I'm on 9. So I think I have one more to go, maybe.
It was just released 3 days ago.
Yep, I didn't watch that. Okay. So I have one more to go.
So she's 80 minutes away from finishing 2 seasons.
Anyway, but I recommend it, honestly, to anyone who loves Stephen King.
Has there been enough pull from the different Stephen King books that you're mentally grabbing him?
I think they did the most popular. I think they did. And I think that they have Easter eggs for those who are diehards, because I love his stuff, but I have not read, not even close to everything he's written. So yes, they pull from things, but You can actually go on and it'll tell you. There's a website that tells you
every single little Easter egg
Yep.
of.
So
I appreciated from like the first, was it 2 episodes in or 3 episodes in? Just Shawshank is one of my favorites.
Wait a minute. Did I
And
see it?
all the little things that he pulled from Shawshank, but then all the stuff that were in the short story that weren't in the movie that were kind of mixed in, I thought were cool. And then like,
When did you finish? Did they start getting really confusing for you?
it was, she was in her house and she was getting, I wouldn't say haunted, but she was being
Yes,
followed by
okay.
the
Okay.
spirit that wasn't
Right.
actually there. That was the last episode I remember.
You know, I watched one not too long ago with Kendra, actually. So I don't know if I watched a lot. I think it's possible that I did watch the last. I don't know. All I know is that the last one I watched, I thought, what? Seriously, you're going to have a huge. What? Just what?
I like those moments.
Okay, well, you're going to have that moment. So I recommend.
I like watching
those.
stuff that most stuff I can be ahead of story wise and be like, yeah, I know where this is going or where it's heading. I like stuff that just, and it happens more and more with the serialized stuff, is that if it's got a good writer behind it.
I said it earlier on, but then it was like, then I thought, nah. And then, but I mean, just like a hair wrong. But yeah, it was still a totally confusing. Oh my gosh, what happened? I still don't understand. They still make it confusing.
Without watching it right now, I'm still, who is Henry Davers? Is he actually the guy that's in the cage, or is he the black kid? And
That's
everything
where
we're
you're
just,
going to get it. What? That's where you're going to get it.
that's where I'm like leaded right now. It's like, is he really Henry Davers, or is Henry Davers the one that was been locked
Has he
up?
said the sentence, I waited for you for 21 years? Because he says that sentence. And
I might be mixing 2 episodes up, but I mean, it was pretty much one of his last conversations with him in the jail still.
oh,
And then he hung up. But
anyway.
as my weeks open up, I'll be digging through more of them.
Okay.
I really liked what I saw, and it was more of those, I can't do this, watch one a week, and then wait a week, then wait a week. I am a binger through and through when they come to series.
Big time, thinking
So
that
that's why I wanted to know.
we're done. And then Dustin was like, wait a minute. They're still coming out.
Yeah.
I'm pissed at you. Because I stuck on Stranger Things and they didn't get it done. So then they got Netflix when they got home. And he said, oh God. I said, well, you can get, Hulu for a little while and you just get.
You get her Hulu for, was that 10-day trial?
10-day trial. Finish it up.
They might have moved it to 30-day trial.
He said it has commercials, right? I
Just
said,
keep changing your email address until you run out of email addresses.
nice. God.
The only thing that they don't like the registering it with different devices. So if you have it like an Apple TV or something registered on, they don't like doing that.
No.
But if you wanted to watch it on the web, just.
Okay. That's all I have.
That's all.
Well, Kendra and I had some movie Monster. The Monster that came out.
The one with Charlize Theron? Monster?
No, not Monster.
No,
This is
Halle Berry.
the-
Halle Berry, not Charlize.
No,
there's a monster with Charlize Theron. That's what she won an Oscar with. Richie's in the film with her.
Okay, no. This is a scary movie. This is just some scary movie where they go out, they're driving, and something is in the woods, and
Sounds like a B movie.
we just wanted to be scared. So we watched it. That was it. It's on Netflix. That's it.
What was the other movie that is now out for rent? The one that you really, really liked? Heritage. It came across my rental thing and I had a chuckle remembering back to your
Actually,
conversation.
Kendra said that she could probably watch it now that it's on
small, you can watch it on
a
the small screen.
screen. So I think she is up for watching it now. So
Just make sure Jason's out of the room.
yeah, he might be. Yeah, well, he's gonna be gone, so we could watch while he's gone.
So yeah, with the crazy last couple of weeks, I haven't really gotten a lot in. As I mentioned, Spider-Man came out in addition, so it's been pulling some of my time from actually finishing up some of these things. So the only show I was actually able to finish was Iron Fist, season 2. Iron Fist season 1 was a mixed bag of what the hell. The biggest complaint, and I think I might have mentioned it here before, is that it was way too many episodes. Danny Rand's universe does not have enough. I think it was 13 episodes.
Okay, thank you.
And this is something I think in general, the Marvel Netflix is finally learning, that even though you might have some content or whatnot to tell over 13 stories, it is much easier to scale it back to 10 or 8 and make a really tight story. And season 1 was complete shit show, all over the place. Danny Rand's character did not feel polished. I know he was supposed to be kind of learning his way, but he felt, even when he came back to New York City, he still felt like a spoiled brat kid, not somebody who had just spent the last 10 years, I think, of his life in Kunlun.
Okay.
He wouldn't have had that much of an attitude coming back to New York City. And so there was kind of like that whole mix. And then you throw in the other two that basically were his de facto siblings, the Ward and his sister. Ward and his sister. I'm so sorry. I am so tired. My head is fried here. But I did mention it was either here or I mentioned to a bunch of friends that at the end of season 1, the one thing I foresaw was that Colleen Wing was actually going to take on the Iron Fist. It just felt like everything was setting this up to push Danny and actually make a person. I'm sorry. I know she doesn't want spoilers, but I'm a spoiler person, and it's the only way I can talk about this one.
It's okay. Marvel's been spoiled a lot lately.
Because I think Colleen Wing's character was the best part of season 1. She was refined. She was a kick-ass character. And I just felt like that she, the whole season 1, should have been the Iron Fist, or the person holding the Iron Fist. And we move into season 2, shorter season, 10 episodes. Danny does not have the shit show that he had going on in season 1. He is somebody who seems very humbled as to what happened between what happened in Defenders and coming back here. He had a little cameo in the Luke Cage thing that kind of gave you an inkling as to, either somebody really looked at that story and said something majorly needs to be changed, or he had a very big come to Jesus moment in between Defenders and here, because he is definitely a person who is honest in searching out what it means to be a superhero and what it means to control the power you have, and what do you do when you lose it. You know, if you were given the power to change the world and all of a sudden somebody just ripped it from you. And that's what basically happens is Davos, his brother from Kunlun, comes in, exacts his revenge, takes the Iron Fist from him, and it's Danny coming to grips with, we need to stop Davos and the murder rage and the killing that he's doing, because Davos, in his mind, you know, you think to Thanos, and Thanos like, I want to kill half of everything because it's for the good of the world. Davos, in that same sense, which I don't know what it is with the villains in the Marvel world, they all have this same sense that killing half of everybody or doing good in their mind is actually the evil. And so Danny enlists Colleen, and they work at trying to, overcome this. And the big kicker is to get it back. Danny actually convinces Colleen to take on the Iron Fist, and it is one of the coolest moments. I was just like yelling. I think it was like 10:30 at night through the house. I'm like, yeah! It was like, it was well deserved. It was well needed. And
Sorry, it sounded like it was well needed for you.
It was because
it was well needed.
They need to figure out what needs to happen with the Danny Rand character, and the closing tail end of what happened with, and I'll leave that for you to like see the little ending on that, left me a little confused as to why they went back in that direction. But as far as I know, right now, Colleen is the Iron Fist. And if you've ever read any of the comics, there are more than one Iron Fist. There always has been. They kind of get passed down. But Colleen's take on the Iron Fist is actually something a little bit different, and she isn't technically the Iron Fist. She is something else that is revealed in there. Whereas Iron Fist Season 1, I would have rated it probably the bottom of all the Marvel Netflix shows that came out. It was probably a solid C. This I would probably give like an A-, and definitely if you've watched the Netflix series and you still want to keep it going, watch it. It's there. I'm really excited for Daredevil Season 3 and for Punisher Season 2. They keep putting out good stuff. They learn, and they seem to learn, the showrunners are learning like, hey, this is working, this isn't working. They're very responsive as to where they're pulling their stories from. The Easter eggs that they keep throwing in left and right are just phenomenal. They're just like, oh, thank you. So yeah, see it, watch it, binge it. And I thought Alice Eve was playing Typhoid Mary, and they bring her on as a different Mary. And I must be missing something in my Marvel head because I don't remember this version of Typhoid Mary, who has multiple personality disorder. So I don't know if they create a new character or if it's a different Mary.
Proud Mary?
But
okay.
Typhoid Mary to me was a different character.
Okay.
But the split personality thing going on with Alice Eve is kind of fun to watch her go from this really diminutive artist to full-on assassin in a heartbeat.
Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah. I'm just trying to
I'm the only one in the
balance
room.
what you're saying in my head.
Only one in the room, completely clueless. Okay. Just curious.
I'm sure I end up clueless at times as well.
Okay.
Okay, well, we are going to run over our break and our Audible read today and go right into our topic. Today, we are talking about Ron Howard, and a movie of choice this week was Apollo 13, simply because, hey, First Man is in the news, First Man is in the trailers. I thought it would be topical. So, tell us a little about Ron Howard. What do we know about him?
Well, Ron Howard started as a child actor. I think we all know that. Happy Days. But I think even before that, he was in...
Actually, he was...
Andy Griffith.
Yes.
He was born first.
Yeah.
He was born on March 1st, by the way, in 1954 in Duncan, Oklahoma. Sorry, I was just trying to be being a bitch. Sorry. And... where did I put all this stuff? He had... Sorry. His first movie was The Journey when he was 5. I've never heard of it. It came out in 1959. Then he was Opie in the Andy Griffith Show, 1960.
I think I watched
6 years
every
old.
single episode of Andy Griffith's show.
That was... And then in 1962, he was in The Music Man. And he sang Gary, Indiana. Because he had a lisp.
No S's in that song.
Yeah. And he was 8 years old, and I say that. And then in 1973, when he was 18 years old, he was in American Graffiti, which probably is like one of the best soundtracks ever. Directed
by George Lucas.
And has a Harrison Ford. There's a ton of people in that movie. Mm-hmm. A ton. Anyway, I had what do we say? It was a dual cassette tape.
Of the soundtrack?
Soundtrack, and I played it over and over and over and over again. And Wolfman Jack is on it. I thought it was the coolest thing. I probably saw the movie once, but I listened to the soundtrack a billion. I mean, I can see the cover it has. Anyway, but I loved that. But I grew up with him. Obviously, Richie in Happy Days. I watched Happy Days every day after school. So, I don't remember, I think, having a huge crush on anybody. I liked that. I thought the Fonz was cool. I liked Richie. I mean, the whole Joni Loves Chachi thing kind of got... But overall, I feel like... But that's where, if we didn't have Happy Days, we wouldn't have Jump the Shark.
Right.
So, which is where the Fonz jumps the shark and on skis.
So that's where that came from.
They have him on skis and he goes up and he jumps over a shark. And they thought for ratings, it was ridiculous.
There was an interesting thing regarding his, with the producers of the show. He wasn't was the producer of the show, or was it, who was it? They're airing it on CBS. They wouldn't let him wear a leather jacket because of morality issues. And the way they got around it is, as long as there was a motorcycle in the scene, he could wear his leather jacket. So they'd always, he'd always be pulling up with the sound of a motorcycle, or there'd be a motorcycle sitting in the bar or the restaurant.
He would drive it into the bar, didn't he?
And that's how he got away with wearing his leather jacket all the time. Or otherwise, he would have had to take it off.
That's weird.
It was a different time.
Huh.
Yeah. Because it was a symbol of bad.
Oh, the leather jacket?
Mm-hmm. Motorcyclists in general were
Bad elements.
Bad thing.
I mean, I Dream of Ginny, she was showing her midriff the whole time, and they had an issue with that. They were kind of like, what? So...
That's why they covered her
censors.
belly button.
Yeah. It's the 60s. I mean, they had the whole American also censorship nonsense going on, and I thought you would know more about that.
Was this a slam to me?
No, I'm just saying.
Oh my
I thought you would know about
God.
television censoring things and how we've gotten more provocative. And
Not TV censoring. I mean, I'm not really, no. Not with TV. I don't know a whole much about TV. I watched it, but that was about it. But yeah, so
you're on a roll. Happy Days.
Happy Days. And then he made his, you said it earlier, his
Directorial debut.
His directorial debut when he was 42. It's 1978, Grand Theft Auto. You didn't say that.
no, I said
Los Santo.
Yeah.
So Grand Theft Auto, he was 24. What am I saying this for?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Oh, he directed 42 movies.
He directed 42 movies, by the way.
Total?
That's what it said on
Okay.
IMDb. You can check it. He acted in
Yeah,
88.
he
produced
directed a
90.
lot of them between the 70s and the 80s. A lot
That's
of
really
ones
funny.
that I'd never seen. And then it seemed like he was doing almost one every other year.
Okay.
That's really funny.
He did Splash, too, didn't he?
Yes.
That's what I thought. That's when him and Brian, I think, officially kind of,
Brian Grazer.
started working
Yes.
together.
On Nightshift as well.
Good movie.
So yeah, that was his directorial debut. 24. That's pretty cool, I think. Somebody
Considering
can
he had
take-
been in the industry since 5, that's an accomplishment.
and now he's in master class.
Yeah. Masterclass
keep
was
saying
I
Yeah.
love
Facebook.
master class.
Have you taken some?
I took.
I took the Hans Zimmer one.
How was it?
Did you really?
Of course I did. I liked it a lot.
I took the
It was more of a
Aaron
story time.
Sorkin one. And
Sorry. Keep going. I just, yeah.
do you have something to say?
Mm-mm.
Do you have something to say?
Mm-mm.
Don't laugh like you're so smug.
We'll circle back to the Aaron Sorkin.
Mr. Smug.
There's something with Aaron Sorkin we got to come back to.
Okay.
Let's continue with
Because
Ron
we
Howard.
know
here.
Aaron Sorkin's name. And I loved his master class. You can laugh if you want. Oh my God.
Sorry.
If you saw his face, people, and you like Aaron Sorkin.
I like him too sometimes. But continue.
Anyway, but I thought the class was very good. Did you see the class? No. Okay. Well, the class is very good. And there's other ones I'm going to take, but anyway. So he just talks about story and craft. And he wants, I'm talking about Ron Howard now. We're back to Ron Howard. And it says, find a story, love it, and tell it. Sorry, that's the end of his little masterclass. But other than that, Wendy and I were kind of just going over stuff like how we grew up with him.
Mm-hmm. The first thing I remember, I might have seen Splash. Is that the one with Tom Hanks?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that was the first one I remember, but I don't think that was the first one I saw of his. I think the first one I saw of his was Cocoon.
Oh my God. Sorry.
I talked about, or I thought about it earlier that I saw Splash, but I had no idea that he was the director.
Me neither.
At the time, because I wasn't paying attention to that stuff then.
Nope.
And then Cocoon came out the next year, and I remember for some reason I caught the fact that he had directed it, and I thought, oh, that's so cool, because I had
Grew up
known
with Ron
him
Howard
for so long.
Yep.
And I even liked him in, if you like John Wayne, he was in The Shootist with John Wayne, and I remember seeing that when he was a teenager as well.
The first one that I was aware of who Ron Howard was and that he directed a film was Apollo 13. Like, I had seen these other movies before. I just never clicked that, oh, that was Opie? Because that's who he was to me, was like Ron Howard was Opie. Like, I'd seen Happy Days, but Ron Howard always to me was Opie, because my dad would watch Andy Griffith Show like every day when I was coming home. It was on the TV, or Western was on the TV, or Andy Griffith was on TV. Mm-hmm. So it was like, oh, there's your little Opie. And then like, oh, Apollo 13 was directed by that little kid. And then I went back and like, oh yeah, I've seen a bunch of his movies and I just didn't realize it.
Yeah, Splash too. I also just didn't put those two together. Cocoon came out the year Wendy was graduating high school. Yes, it did.
85 was when it
we
came out.
watched it in the year you were graduating high school.
I don't know.
We must have rented it then. It came out and we did, yeah, because we were in a bedroom watching it, bawling our eyes out for some strange reason, because all at once it brought up all these feelings of Wendy's leaving and going to college. That's what I remember about Cocoon. That is my Cocoon moment.
And one of his films, like, is probably the top 5 of like my wife's. Like, anytime it's on, she watches it. Parenthood. She loves that movie.
So does Wendy.
Mm-hmm.
I've maybe watched, of how many times that she's watched it, I've probably watched it as a whole, but I've never sat and watched more than 5 to 10 minutes at a time.
I've seen it maybe once or twice.
Well, and it's a source of constant referrals in our house. The electric ear cleaner scene is always brought up because it's just funny. And, we always say, watch out because grandma might have her electric ear cleaner. And things like the roller coaster analogy, I'm always thinking that if I'm having a bad day parenting, that just pops into my head about the roller coaster analogy. So there's lots of it that just resonates, I guess, probably because I'm a parent now.
You've been a parent for a while.
For at least 23 years now.
Correct. I think I was first introduced to John Candy and Daryl Hannah with Splash, by the way. The only thing that reminds me, Splash...
Uncle Buck, I think, was
when
my
he
first
hits
time.
the ball and it comes and smacks him in the face. I mean, you don't get any better comedy than that. That's funny.
John Candy was in Stripes earlier, too. So
Yeah.
That's a good
remember that
movie.
one.
But I didn't know who he was. But I wasn't, I think I was aware the first time he directed was, I think it was Parenthood, actually. Or maybe it flashed up on the screen with Ransom. It's possible. It probably did. Although I was like, oh yeah. I mean, with a lot of these things, it was, oh yeah, kind of thing.
And that's kind of a weird thing
Like
to say
Far and
because,
Away?
like, well, yeah, that
Oh,
was
yeah.
going through the list. I'm like, he directed Far and Away? I've seen the movie and it it's to me, it doesn't like nothing on that screams. This is a Ron Howard film.
It is Backdraft. But Backdraft to me is the soundtrack and the don't open the door, you know. But the scene where it goes, breathes, when it's breathing. But soundtrack by, have you heard the Backdraft soundtrack?
A long time ago.
Dude, it's your guy.
I know.
Anyway.
I'm not a big fan of his early electronic work. That was more of his electronic stage.
Oh, I love that soundtrack.
It's that same, like, the Rain Man circle.
Oh,
the
okay.
Rain Man.
Well, Far and Away,
Africa.
I also was like Enya doing the stuff, and I was thinking of the soundtrack and thinking about Tom and Nicole. I wasn't really thinking about the director. So
it strikes me when I think about it that when I think about Ron Howard, there isn't a type. I don't think of a certain type of movie that he makes. I think of actors and producers that he constantly works with. But I don't think of this is his type of film because he's all over the board, I think. But yeah, when it comes to Ron Howard, it's like, oh, Tom Hanks, you know, not a big surprise. Or, you know, that he produced with Brian Grazer and things like that. That's constantly what I think of.
because he did some Parenthood stuff. The Parenthood, the show on TV.
To me, I would say if I was to give him a type, and he hasn't done this with all his movies, but he's a person who likes to tell stories of people, of real figures, and give them life. So you look at Cinderella Man, you look at Beautiful Mind, you look at Apollo 13, Frost and Nixon. There's something else I'm missing in there.
The guy,
he just directed an episode of Genius a couple years ago. So like things like that, he likes to bring to life.
Actually was based on a real guy too.
Okay.
Yeah, and the HBO series From the Earth to the Moon.
That was Tom Hanks.
And him. And Ron Howard.
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, he produced it. He produced it, and it was very good.
So, I mean, that would probably be the only area I would say this kind of the director he is. And I think that also is when he's at his best, is when he's telling those stories and bringing to life a real event or a real person.
And magnifying it. So
I just found out today that he co-wrote Parenthood and Far and Away. That was shocking to me. I don't know why, but it was. So yeah. But we were the top grossing movies worldwide. It's just kind of funny because if you go down the list, the worst ones are at the bottom. I mean, the worst ones are at the top of the list as number 1 and number 2.
And?
What would you think would be his worst movies he's ever made?
The Da Vinci Code.
Yes.
Correct. That's number 1. And
Angels and Demons.
that's number 2.
Inferno.
He's got the third one on there.
So number 3
Inferno
is
would probably
Apollo.
be 4th or 5th.
Number 3 is Apollo, which is number... No, these are talking about... These are the
Grossing.
top grossing.
Oh.
These are top,
Sorry.
top grossing. 4 is The Grinch. Ugh. Sorry. Kendra loves that movie, but no thank you. 5, A Beautiful Mind. 6 is Ransom, which...
Did Inferno even make the top 10?
No.
Wow. That was a really bad one.
7, Backdraft. 8, Far and Away. 9, Parenthood. And 10, Cinderella Man.
The thing that the Da Vinci Code series gave us was some really good music by Hans Zimmer. There are some really good pieces in there that are classically geared pieces that I liked. But that was a big thing when he signed on and actually made the Da Vinci Code films and brought them out there. They're kind of weird in their own way.
Should I comment?
Comment however you want. I'm not going to stop.
I wanted to like the Da Vinci Code just because everyone was like bashing it and the church was going but they misused.
I love it anytime a church gets riled up.
And the guy is fiction. It's a fictional novel. It's a fiction, but yeah. So Audrey Tautou and Tom Hanks had zero chemistry the whole time, and I was cringing watching them interact. I love Audrey.
I agree.
To death, and I was watching her try to be.
And it also gave us long-haired Tom Hanks.
Yeah. It was
Which
kind of
was
weird.
bad.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's just the acting between them was like I mean, Jean had better chemistry. Sorry, Jean Renault had better chemistry with Audrey than Tom, and he wasn't even interacting with her that much. But it just felt very awkward having Tom and her talk to each other, and I don't know if it could have been cast differently, but it is what it was. And we had our stereotypical. I mean, they had Jean Renault play the Frenchman, which he could have been. There's a guy who they always cast as either a Turk or a Russian or a Frenchman, and he's in Armageddon playing the Russian cosmonaut. Mm-hmm. He's actually from Turkey, but it's kind of weird how he's been typecast that way. And they could easily put him in there too, but I don't know, just Tom and Audrey. Every time I think of that movie, I'm like, wow, bad chemistry. And yeah.
Tom Hanks never came into my head when I was reading the book.
No.
But
Dan Brown claimed that's what he thought about when he was writing it. I'm like,
sure he did.
Please.
What?
Please, Dan. Yeah.
No. Dan Brown said that he was thinking of Tom Hanks
when I was writing it sometimes.
Come on.
You mean you weren't doing your photo?
Maybe he was thinking about Tom Cruise.
Oh my God. That's insane.
She sees it.
That's like if Anne Rice were saying, I was thinking of Tom Cruise. Actually, she didn't want Tom Cruise for. Sorry.
But yeah, that's just.
I'm going
for what?
Off kilter.
For
like Interview with the Vampire.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna get on a tangent of Cruise here.
Here's the thing: is that when I thought about my favorite Ron Howard films, I began to think about it that it wasn't the film as a whole that I liked. It was just certain elements, like Nightshift. I loved Michael and Henry's interactions together. That's what made me laugh. That's what I like about the film. And then we have what are we talking about? Apollo 13. We'll get to that later. Beautiful Mind. I loved the script for that movie. So when I was reading the screenplay, I loved it. And then I saw the movie, it was even more awesome. But it always goes back to I liked the script more than actually watching the movie. So it was...
See, I loved A Beautiful Mind.
So
I mean, it's actually shocked me that I haven't gone back and watched it in a very long time. And I wish I should. I need to put that on my list. But it's like I remember seeing A Beautiful Mind at least 3 to 5 times when it first came out in that area and when it first came out on the DVD or Blu-ray when I first got it. And I really liked it. I just liked the elements of filmmaking that he put into the movie, from like just the little things like, all the numbers pop out on the screen. And that's like, you're actually like getting inside of his mind and seeing it from a different perspective.
Well, that's what I thought too when I was watching it, and then I reread it. And then when I was rereading the screenplay, I said, this isn't really, see, I'm being weird. I'm sorry, but I separate the writer and director sometimes in the elements that they both do. And I said, well,
that's not weird.
Akiva actually wrote all that stuff in the screenplay. So Ron he had creativity, but he was pretty much going from what the script said. Now, Apollo 13, I read that screenplay too. It's all there on the page, but Ron actually had to go in and research on his own and get everything together with Tom, and they had to collaborate together. It was a big ordeal. So it was more director's vision, actor's vision. Everyone had to come together, and that's how I can say that's my favorite Ron Howard film, because he's actually involved. He's actually having an input. I'm not saying that directors don't usually, but with the, sorry, I'm drawing blanks. Sorry, long day. But when I saw, A Beautiful Mind on screen, I said, this is exactly what was written in the screenplay. So Ron may have had some creative choices, but Akiva pretty much told him from line 1, fade in, this is what I want on screen.
But I think a good director will also make that choice and say, let's not mess with it. True. How many times can you look at something and say, oh man, that was in the script and they cut it?
Yeah.
And that was not a really good choice. Whereas,
you mean historically or script?
What do you mean? Go ahead. What do you mean?
Script-wise.
Script-wise. Okay.
So I think it's also a symbol of a good director who's matured, and he's had, at the point he came to A Beautiful Mind, how many decent films he had already put up.
Right.
That when he came and he saw, and he had a writer who actually knew the story and wrote it well, then it's just bringing those things to life. I mean, you still got to make that leap. I mean, it's not going to happen by itself.
Right.
And like a good take on the editing.
Go ahead. Say again. I didn't hear you.
A good take on the editing.
Right. So that's just me. That's just my thing. That it's hard to separate the writing from the film when I know that the writer wrote all these things, but Ron did put it together too. But I feel Apollo 13, he really put everything together in the film, and he really had to go and research everything, had to do everything. He had to actually get on the Vomit Comet and be there with the actors while they're arcing, and that's insane. I mean, that was a big, big undertaking, and Apollo 13's launch is still used at Disney and other places as a I mean, they even used it in From Near to the Moon because it was already made and done. So I'm a space nut. I'm gonna go on long rants during Pod 13's talk too. But it's insane.
My son is too. So.
Yeah.
I have to say that. So he directed a documentary about the Beatles that I went to go see.
I just saw that on the list, and I'm like, huh.
No, it was really. I saw it at the Little, and it was there for one day. It was the Beatles 8 days a week. It was just the touring years, and it was packed full of course, Beatle fans, and I will say he did a fantastic job with it. I learned things I did not have a clue about. Help was literally writing about help, like help us. Like they were so trapped, and they felt like prisoners. And won't you please help me? I mean, I think it's interesting. But there's lots of things that you can learn in that movie or documentary, so that you can rent that. It came out in 2016. So
cool.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Before we roll into Apollo 13, I'm not going to let it slide that there has been a lot of controversy with Howard taking over the role of director for Solo that just came out, and how much it got derided. And I think I mentioned on the show that I think as a Star Wars movie, it wasn't the best, but it was a solid film. And I think that was a testament to Ron Howard making whatever he had work. Because I don't know, we won't be privy to knowing what was actually there from the previous directors that was still in the film and what actually made it there. But as a movie, if you took it outside of the Star Wars universe and just watched it as a movie, I would have gotten just as much enjoyment out of it. And I think that just comes to his testament of he's a really solid filmmaker through and through. And out of all of his films, my favorite film has been A Beautiful Mind.
I'm still going with Apollo 13 and Beautiful Mind. They're kind of tied. So,
what's my favorite film? Well, it varies because there's things that I have really enjoyed. I'm sorry, I can't just say.
If you had them all sitting in front of you, which one would you put in the VCR? I mean,
in the VCR?
We're that old.
Got one.
We all have
literally
one.
say that.
We all have
I
one.
do have one. I would say I would put. Oh my gosh. I have a three-way tie.
Go ahead.
First one that comes out of your mouth.
I liked Backdraft. Okay.
So we'd be watching Backdraft.
We're probably watching Backdraft, but only because in my head, Kendra hasn't seen it. And then Far and Away, I liked Far and Away just because I did. I did. And then I liked the Beatles documentary. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything here that I thought Apollo 13 was a great movie. Do not get me wrong. But I am not as big into space as other people in my family. So.
Yeah. And I have a division as younger me and older me.
Yeah.
Older me would put in Apollo 13 now. And part of that has to do with the dynamics in my family. And it's one of my son's favorite movies ever. And so I have that. And then I really love the message in Cocoon. And because I think I remember it so well. And I remember thinking, isn't this cool? And these older actors were having fun and living life. And I just thought that was a cool message. And so I have a younger me and an older me. So
awesome. Well, let's roll into Apollo 13.
Okay. So this is a film that Ron picked. It's about the survival of the Apollo 13, I guess, launch/mission/recovery efforts of NASA and the world to help them come home after a gasket vehicle burst. Sorry, nerd of me. They had a fuel tank stir issue, long story short, and they had to turn around. But they didn't really turn around. They just went around the moon and came back to Earth slingshot-wise. And it was harrowing because these guys are in a small little space, about the size of our studio space right now, and running out of air and running out of time and fuel because their fuel was spewing into space. And they made it back. NASA's never lost a human being in space, and I don't think they plan on it ever in the future. But that was a very close call. So that's about what I had to sum it up.
Really?
And
Well,
it stars.
Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, Bill Paxton, and Ed Harris.
And Gary Sinise.
Gary Sinise.
Yes.
And there are women in the film, but those 5 gentlemen are probably the biggest
Names.
memory that I have of this film.
Sure. We learned today that there
Please don't
is
say that Bill Paxton died because we know that.
No.
No, that actually Ron Howard took
Creative license.
creative
Yeah.
license with how it got back, how Apollo 13 got back. And he has the dialogue, like it's a 6 minute scene or something ridiculous. And it's actually,
It's where he loses the Earth. I lost it.
I lost it and he's trying to find it.
They're burning so that they can.
Oh, you mean aviation?
Yes,
Sorry,
uh-huh.
yeah.
So when they actually had to do, you can't see.
They had to maneuver the spaceship so that it would
Fly by wire,
actually
okay.
hit the destination.
And so there was actually probably 6 words that were used during the 6 minutes, I think. We fight
In real life.
in real life, which probably would have been horribly boring for everybody that was sitting in the audience. And so he filled it with
You have to.
something. So, but what he did was, I thought was interesting. I mean, I thought it was good. I thought it was cool that he was keeping it in his line of sight and everything. So
The actual, if you actually listen to the live feed from the mission, because I've listened to all of it because I'm that crazy, it's pretty boring. Like, a lot of dead air, a lot of them just mentally thinking, not even talking out loud. And it's frustrating.
It's something you've got to give a big credit to the astronauts and these people, like the situations that are in. And it's, if you've ever heard a air traffic controller dealing with a situation, like they're just grounded, calm. Captains are calm and talking. It's like, it is amazing because like 90 whatever % of the rest of us would be flipping out and like,
One thing at Space Camp, they teach you compartmentalization, how to compartmentalize your life. And your life was in one box, the mission's in one box. You all learn that, and it's hard. I mean, even the Blue Angels, listening to them, they're all calm, even neutral voices speaking.
It's all those
I get
simulations.
that, but there is a very, 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 very slim portion of the population that is actually like, couldn't do that.
Couldn't.
I mean, to be in that, I mean, and doctors can and probably fall in that line too of being able just to completely shut out everything else and deal with the situation.
Well, and I kind of understand that. People have always told me that in a crisis, this is kind of a strange thing to say, but in a crisis, I'm always very calm and level-headed. And then as soon as that crisis is over, then I flip out. It's like, okay, this is what just happened. But during the crisis, I'm very calm and level-headed, and this is what we need to get done, and we need to do this. And so I think that's kind of along these lines. You know, I'm sure when they got home, they were like,
Decompress.
oh my gosh. Yeah.
I'd be freaking out because I was looking at the math they had to do and my head was blown. I mean, these people needed to know math.
The brightest minds in the world were working in those rooms, so
Yes. Well, and I see that's one thing I made a note of
or in the basement.
was that I love it because of the problem-solving scenario in it. My son, you mentioned Space Camp earlier. My son went to 6 summer camp sessions of Space Camp, and the last 2 where they actually went to Florida and to California and visited sites. And I guess 1 year was also to Houston. But that's what he told me. He said the reason he loves this movie is because it's about space. And because of the space camps that he attended where they put them in those scenarios and said, okay, this just went wrong. What are you going to do to fix it? And so, that immediate problem solving is similar to that. And they have to run those things all the time, which is another reason why they are calm when it happens, probably.
Who's his favorite character?
Tom Hanks.
And why is that?
I said, why do you like the Tom Hanks character? Because he's Tom Hanks. That's what he said to me.
How old is your son?
He's 19.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Derek. And the other thing I like about it's Tom Hanks, and then he just said
it's a very apropos answer. Yep.
And the other thing I like about it is the fate that's in it, and that the fact that Gary Sinise had to stay back.
Yep.
His character had to stay back because of the sickness. Yeah.
Measles.
But he's the one that helped to solve the problem because he would have been there and knows exactly what they are going through. And it's just amazing to me that whole thing happened the way it did, because if any little thing had changed, and that's another thing that Tom Hanks mentioned today, is that if any little thing had done it at different times.
Did you watch the commentary track?
No, he came over to our house.
Yeah, he came and talked to us. Anyway, it wouldn't have worked.
No.
Nothing would have worked out the way it was supposed to.
It's amazing.
There is a lot of luck involved in a lot of the big events that have happened. Just like things that just happen. And it's like there's no explaining it. There's just like, it's just...
The universe worked out the way it was.
Because if it was reversed and Gary Sinise was up there, who would have been their backup down there?
True.
No one.
What's interesting is that I don't remember the music in Apollo 13.
It was Horner, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. But see, I don't know.
Yeah.
And the movies that I chose that
didn't
are
play a
my
lot of it.
favorites, I can hear the music when I see the movie in my head. Like I chose the ones where the music was like so strong within the story. Like whether you like it or not, the Far and Away soundtrack, I loved the music. You can laugh. That's okay. I liked it. And
I only chuckle because of Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
I know.
Just
It's
riding
ridiculous.
on that horse.
It's ridiculous. That's fine. There's some gorgeous little pieces there, but it's a nice little. I liked watching it, and I was how old was I? So, but the music I can hear, Backdraft, I can hear the music, and then of course the Beatles.
See, and that's funny because I don't hear the music until I watch it a second or third time, because I am so focused on the story that if the music is working like it's supposed to work, it blends so well that I don't.
Are you talking about all movies?
Yes, that I don't even hear the soundtrack until later.
This is not true.
Okay.
Because what did we do right after we saw Lady Hawk?
Because most of that is music. And half the time, that's all it was. But if it's action, like Apollo 13,
I know, I'm just kidding you.
I don't hear.
Well,
Yeah, most of it should work on a subliminal level because the right music can change your emotions without you knowing it and completely change a scene. I gotta go. Now that you mentioned that, I gotta go back. Horner might have. They might have. I think it was Horner. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if they dropped out some of the music in some of the scenes.
They did.
Because I know they are doing that with First Man. Like this, a lot of the space. I mean, just
silence.
It's just silence.
I think that's good. I think that the music can mess up your emotions. Like it will play with your emotions. I mean, with horror movies, fine, put them in if you need to, whatever. But it's scarier if you don't.
You think like how much of it would be changed if you heard the Superman theme as they're blasting off into space? I mean, that'd be forever stuck in your head instead of something that was a little bit more underscored and.
Yeah.
But
I'm just kidding about that.
And Apollo 13 has been also known as giving us one of our popular vernaculars that people love to use.
Misquoted.
That is misquoted. Go ahead, Anthony.
People have been saying Houston, we have a problem. When it's Houston, we've had a problem. That's one thing, and it wasn't as dramatic as they make it seem. Even listening to it for real, his level is just calm as it be. Just Houston, we've had a problem here. Say again. Yeah. So it's Tom just heightened it up because it's drama. You have to make it all serious and whatnot. But even Tom knows he didn't want to say it that way. Yeah. But they made him. So, yeah, that one a little bit.
So now every time something goes wrong, you always hear it everywhere. Houston, we have a problem.
And it's annoying. So
an interesting piece of vernacular history.
Yes, and they use the failure is not an option is now a catchphrase in NASA. It's on there.
Did that get pulled from the movie, or was that something from the original tapes?
That I don't know.
I think it's from the movie.
Just from the movie.
Or something that maybe Kratz maybe said it in passing.
It's not a bad.
But it's kind of really kind of stressful to keep hearing that when situations are. I mean, one thing I should tell you, I listen to the ISS feed like all the time because I'm that kind of person. And there's a lot of things going on up there. They I think last week they finally revealed that there's an air leak in the ISS, and they're working fast to patch it. But if you listen to it all the time, there's always things hitting the spacecraft all the time. And these people are like, okay, we've had a hit. And it's in this location of we are losing air. But if you're listening all the time, oh, they have another little nick. Last week was the first time that you said we have a hit and we need to get there quickly and fix the problem. But just
a lot of space junk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, little tiny microscopic, little size of a penny, or even a nail can hit ISS and burst a hole through it the size of a football, and it's
the last little. Go ahead.
So, as a space nerd, can you please answer me a question?
I'll try.
My daughter can't sleep.
Okay.
Some nights because she heard there is an asteroid that is going to hit the Earth that's out there that is going to come close and become between the Earth and the Moon, and that's how close it's going to hit the Earth within 25 years. Is that true?
We've been hearing about it, but they haven't confirmed.
But what do you think?
I've not looked at it yet. I mean, I usually get files and things to look at, but I haven't even looked at it yet.
You haven't looked at it because you don't think it's a problem and you don't think that it's something we need to worry about?
I mean, if I'm really curious, I'll let you look at other... I mean, I don't trust NASA 100% to begin with, so I have other sources I use around the world that will be on... They have observatories everywhere. They can monitor it, but...
I'd be more worried about the ones we don't see.
Yeah.
Like the one, what was it, last year? The one that came really close to the Earth that was like, hey, this wasn't even here.
Yeah. We don't talk about these things because we don't want to get in the world of mass hysteria.
But then you just got to go watch Armageddon and watch them blow it up and say, this is what we can do in 25 years.
Yeah.
That movie was really unrealistic. It was entertaining, but really unrealistic in a way.
Well, isn't there a TV series about that very thing?
Yeah.
Right now, I can't think of the name of it. I just saw a blip of it the other day, and there's an asteroid that they're trying to blow up.
Blowing up is not a good idea. Just not good in space.
And if you don't want to watch Armageddon, you can always watch Deep Impact with Morgan Freeman as the president
for the second time.
I like Armageddon.
It's more entertaining
because
it keeps it from hitting.
I think with Armageddon, I had
Ben Affleck.
Oh yes, I did.
Going that fast and that close to Earth, the Earth will be gone already. I'm sorry, just watching right now.
In my locker. Yes, he was from that movie. Okay.
So yeah, tell your daughter to go watch Armageddon, and maybe in 25 years they'll have a way to get rid of it.
Yeah, she can watch that in a few years. We're only 8 years old.
I will say there are other scarier things.
I think there's not much in Armageddon that I wouldn't say.
There's a few things. There's a few things you should be more worried about in space besides the asteroids. Like with astronauts sleeping in the ISS, and they lose air because the way they're sleeping, that the air has to blow on them. But sometimes astronauts actually... So sorry, this is another thing. When you listen to the feed, they have their heart monitors on. So a couple times there's people day and night watching them sleep and listening to their heartbeats. And recently we had an astronaut almost choke because he lost air because the air is flowing in a way where it's fine on his face, but he turned slightly and there was just an air pocket around him and he lost air, so he started gagging. And the medic was saying, I think he's choking. So we need to wake him up. So the person on the deck who's awake had to float down to the galley to wake the guys say, you need to wake up. You have a gas bubble of CO2 around you right now. And all because he turned his neck slightly when he was sleeping and the airflow didn't hit him the right way. So he had a poisonous gas bubble around his head. And he was basically asphyxiating because he didn't know because he's strapped in, doing his thing.
Jeez. That TV series is on CBS, actually. Crazy. It's called Salvation. And it's about an asteroid. They're trying to stop an asteroid from hitting the Earth. They want to change its course.
That's smart. I know that the Chinese are trying to land on one. So,
yeah. Trying to land on an asteroid?
Trying to land on an asteroid, yeah.
Okay.
With a satellite.
Armageddon.
They're trying to land on it. I'm like, wow, okay. We're going to the sun, too, sending a satellite to the sun, too, in a couple of years. So it's sunshine, but without the,
Well,
Moving
wrapping
on.
up our Apollo 13 coverage, I just also wanted to point out this was also, to me, it was like the trio of Tom Hanks films. It was in the 3 right in a row with Philadelphia, Forrest Gump, and then 2 in the same year, Apollo 13 and Toy Story. So it was just that was his like hot zone of where he was, and kind of solidified himself into everybody's mind of who Tom Hanks is.
He wasn't goofy
Kind of
anymore. He was
thing.
serious.
And then Toy Story, Infinity and Beyond. And now coming up, we have First Man coming up. So this should be an interesting... there's been a couple of space films. This one I'm looking
There's been
forward
a
to.
couple space films.
Just a couple.
They didn't spend a lot of time on Apollo 11 during From the Earth to the Moon on HBO. They kind of skipped over it. And Apollo 13 was covered on the ground versus in space.
Yeah, Apollo 11 is in Hutchinson, Kansas, at the Cosmosphere.
Say again?
Apollo 11, the actual
capsule.
The capsule, Apollo 11. Look at the doubt.
It is. This Cosmosphere works practically coincides with NASA, and they have exclusive right on a lot of those things, and they have a space museum in Hutchinson, Kansas, which is where Derek was able to go through space camp through the Cosmosphere.
That's an hour away, and that was my my 3rd grade field trip. It's the one that you always look forward to, but I don't know if they do it
Could you touch
anymore. Huh?
Could you touch it?
No, it's behind. I mean, it's
Of course.
Yeah, we can climb inside it. No.
Well, at space camp, you can. Depending on how your ranking and whatnot, they let you slide into mock-ups of Apollo.
Yeah, no,
space
this is the actual thing. So.
camp. You can... I want to touch it, so...
Okay.
Okay.
Touchy. No touchy.
yes.
All right.
God.
Well, that was fun discussion. The next discussion is going to be Anthony's.
I'll surprise you. I don't know yet.
I'm going to be surprised. We're going to be surprised, and we're going to be watching
You're
some hockey
surprised.
film.
No, probably Alexander Payne or something like that. We'll see.
Alexander Payne.
What?
All right, so let's reach into our grab bag. What's in the kids' corner?
The Kids Corner was created by Wendy, so I don't even know.
I love how Wendy took over.
I had to go take a shower.
Let me go do this for you. My 8th grade daughter, Mackenzie, which we've mentioned, I think she's mentioned before, has watched a movie called To All the Boys I've Loved Before, which is a TV 14 on Netflix. It's about a girl who has written these letters to 5 of her crushes, and they get mailed out. And so that everything changes for her. And basically, definitely a tween movie. And I noticed that Disney's A Wrinkle in Time comes to Netflix on September 25th.
Oh, good. That'll save me from renting it.
Yeah. Yep.
It's one of those way down my list of things to watch. And
It
I was
is.
like,
If it's going to be there, then you can watch it there.
Wait.
yeah.
Yeah, we haven't been watching. My kids don't really like me during school season. School's in session, I guess. Yeah, we haven't really been watching.
Can't watch anything at night.
We don't watch it anymore. We watch lots of nature shows. If we watch TV, it's a nature show because
there's not much time once the girls get back from school
because we're trying to focus on reading.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So
that's Kids Corner. All right. Score of the week. I currently have nothing.
and we just
I haven't heard anything new that's been stealing my interest. So I'm still going back and listening to the same old favorites. So
what are your favorites then? Since we wrote down some of ours,
a lot of my stuff is the Hans Zimmer stuff. I love the Gladiator, the Dark Knight score suite.
There you go.
The Pirates suite.
Yeah, with Klaus Badell.
I mean, I can literally listen to those. So if I'm in a Hans Zimmer mood, I really like listening to the Live in Prague edition. That was
there you go.
So that was the show that I went and saw.
Yeah.
Last year. This is when they recorded it in Prague, and it's just fantastic. I have the Blu-ray too, and it's just amazing.
I liked.
I'm really digging Michael Giacchino's stuff. He's been doing a lot of good stuff out there. doing a lot of the new Star Wars stuff. So
I was listening, the ones that I could remember affecting me when I was younger. Like, I liked Edward Scissorhands, Last of the Mohicans. Still like them. The English Patient, Out of Africa grew on me because I listened to it with Wendy and Mom, probably. And The Dark Knight I always liked. And Rush was a movie with Jason Patric. Got it. And sorry, I couldn't remember his last name. And Jennifer Jason Leigh. Rush. It's a. Do you know the movie?
Is that
Rush?
The race car?
This is Rush's movie about the fact that he goes undercover.
Oh.
Or she does. Somebody goes undercover.
Yeah.
Into
not
a drug
the Rush
ring.
I was thinking of.
Yeah.
And Eric Clapton does the entire soundtrack, and I love it.
The other one's a Ron Howard movie.
Yeah.
That's with Thor.
Anyway, but yeah, Rush.
Thor and the other guy.
Yeah.
Listen to it. I like it. It's good.
Dark Knight to me still has one of the best pieces of score and cinematic piece when the tractor trailer comes out and they go underneath the ground. That whole suite in there is just, to me, I still get chills every time I watch it, and I've watched it many, many times. And it's a very simplistic piece of music. So.
Wendy, John Williams, everything.
Really?
Yeah.
She's a big John Williams.
I have a hard time picking a favorite. I really love Ennio Morricone and
How can you not?
have for a long time.
There's some people who don't. It scares me.
It's a specific thing.
Type. My favorite was The Mission, because that's
my
where I
favorite.
first really
that's
heard him and
good.
really go, oh, who is this? I've got to find out who this is. But I even love when I'm listening on Pandora and I just put in, okay, this is what I want, this type I want to listen to. And they throw in the Once Upon a Time in the West and the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly themes and things like that. And even those are great.
And he did the music for Hateful Eight, too.
He did. The Oscar finally. Sad.
Yeah. And my go-to when I was driving to work all the time was the Gladiator soundtrack. But I love the vocals by Lisa Gerrard and in that. And I could just listen to that over and over again. And, the Harry Potter soundtracks, even though they still have the same John Williams theme for parts of it, they changed throughout all that time. So I have a hard time focusing on one.
She's a soundtrack girl.
Always have been.
So in lieu of actually listening to any new scores lately, what I've actually been catching up on is there's a new podcast. It's called Score, the podcast. These are the same ones. They made a documentary called Score, the film, last year, which was really good. And what they've done with Score, the podcast, is they're going around and interviewing individual composers. So they've had Ramin Djawadi and a couple other, like Harry Gregson Williams, on there. And rather than like playing the music, you're actually like delving into like some of their stories behind, what started their career, where they got that. So I've been they just finished up their first season, so I'm just listening to the last one on my last trip. And it's kind of nice to, you really don't get to know many of the composers outside of their music, but to actually finally like listen to a composer and like realize like how much they put into it, and how much they get to work with the directors, and how many of them like. The first time I heard like the composer's suite and room was put next to the edit bay in the director's room was for Gladiator. That was the first time I had ever heard of it. Usually it's like everything was shipped out or farmed out to a orchestra room, and they do everything over there, and they weren't having that back and forth editing. And it was like almost all these guys all worked either with Hans or through different channels, and they all seemed to develop that same repertoire with the directors that they would work with, is that they would just create the music as they're doing it. And the most recent one was, come on, Lorne Balfe from Mission Impossible and his work with Christopher McQuarrie. They were just, the rooms were next to it. You're just going back and forth. You know, make up the music and play it, and they just, it was just like that's ultimate creativity for me when one feeds the other and back and forth. So,
Great.
Cool. There's nothing under the book of the week.
Well, we skipped it. But the book of the week. Oh, the book of the week? I'm just listening to an Audible book that I
Anything
just
good?
started. I don't know yet.
Too early to tell.
It's too early to tell, but it's The Couple Next Door by Sherry Lapina, and it's narrated by Kristen Potter. But I'll let you know next week, or the next time we do this, I guess.
In the game world, like I said, I've been playing Spider-Man. It's a holy wow moment for me. The game, they basically generated all of New York City, and it's pretty much all explorable. Like, you can't go into buildings, but you can climb up them, fly on them, see all the cool landmarks, go to Times Square, PlayStation 4. So, like, one of the coolest things, like, I climbed up to the top of the Empire State Building, and you just get that view of everything from every direction. The girls really liked seeing Times Square being generated. Now, because of licensing, you don't have Hamilton, you don't have like all these popular things that you would normally expect to have. So they're all made up, generated. So we were hunting down like the different theaters. Emma's like, oh, it's because Emma just came back from New York City. She's like, oh, go to this road, go to this one. So I was like, we were going to different things as Spider-Man, just screwing around. And just for the open world exploration, it was fun. And I'm looking forward to Red Dead Redemption, which is coming out in the end of October, which
Exciting.
is a Western one that's been almost got to be close to 10 years since the last one came out.
I think so, yeah.
And just looks set in
It's basically a Western where you can go out and you're basically a gunslinger, bandit kind of figure, and you can do whatever you want to do, and there's consequences for it. So you can rob a store or shoot someone, and people will chase after you for doing it.
Oh, kind of Westworldy. Weird.
Better.
But actually set in in the West. The thing, and it's come through with like games like Uncharted and Spider-Man now, is like they've really embraced the cinematography type feel. Like, it's not just a game, it's the feel of like a whole experience. Like, it has a certain look to it, and so that you're getting these beautiful locations to explore. I mean, how detailed the Empire State Building is, like all the little details that you can see when you go there, you can see on the building. Little things like in Red Dead Redemption, like, hey, a horse running down, like you get dust up in the air, like the little things that they think about to make it a complete experience, but also put you in these amazing venues that looks like a professional cinematographer was just out there just giving you a movie, but you're actually creating the movie as you're doing it. It's just been
You got to Central Park yet?
Yeah. Stopped a couple muggings in Central Park.
Did you?
Yes. Even fell in the water.
Nice.
So, but it was at night, so I got to go back there during the day and see if they've got the geese. Was it the geese boat?
Oh.
Is it a duck boat? Geese boat? Swan boat. That's the one I'm thinking of. See if they have the swan
I
boats
always
there.
enter in
That's why I have a
by
PS4 now.
42nd Street by the Dakota. Because that's where the Imagine is.
I've only been to New York twice, and it's been a long time since I've been there. And so I'm just kind of doing most things from memory as to like where things are. But I'm just having fun exploring.
Cool.
It's like a
Playground.
Google Maps, but bigger.
No, it
I
sounds
love games
cool.
like that. They're fun.
What's on your radar? What's in your queue?
I didn't get a chance to watch Like Father. That's a Kelsey Grammer, Christine Bell film. I saw the first 10 minutes of it, so I'm still engaged in watching it. I just got kind of hung up by watching it with my kids. So I started listening to Netflix audio describers, describe movies. So I never knew that really existed, but listening to Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok being auto described is kind of funny because the describers are kind of cheeky, or the script is. So they describe Thor as being, a handsome man with long hair, and then, it's just all these little fun little tidbits they put in there.
It's funny when you said you were listening to movies that way. I remembered, I think I took my tape recorder and I recorded the first Batman.
Okay.
And I would listen to it at night.
I did that with Big Trouble in Little China.
Okay. And It was the first time I did it, and it was probably the last time I did it. I don't think I remember doing it, but it helped me, like, just learning the words to a movie, and it really helped when I started getting into theater, just like the whole like learning lines and like how quickly your memory can like soak in stuff. And I realized like whenever I needed to learn lines for theater, I would record the lines and then I'd listen to them at night as I'm going to sleep, because your brain starts to shut down, and the retention rate of what is in your brain at that time of the night is phenomenal. And it's just, I just remember like, it's just such an interesting experience listening to a movie without actually seeing a movie.
There's an app now. Did you know that?
Yeah.
For learning lines. Isn't it Sides?
Yeah, I think so.
And it's only for Shakespearean things right now, but hopefully they expand that. But I think that's cool.
There's also a new streaming service called Stages, which is a streaming platform for theater people who love theater. It has one of my favorite web series, Submissions Only, season 1 is on there, but they're going to expand, I think. So you can still watch Submissions Only on YouTube, but it's going to be on there. And they have backstage interviews. They have some shows. They have like cabarets that some actors do at Studio 54. So it's still in the beta stage. So I signed on as a beta tester, and it's going to officially release in October on the 1st. So it's about $4.99 a month. Or
I signed up as a beta service for DC Universe, and I still didn't get the invite, but that's going to probably be released soon too.
You bitter about it?
Huh?
A little bitter? No?
Yes.
Okay.
Because all the DC films or new series that are coming out are through that. I haven't caught up on much, so I'm going to try to use the next 2 weeks to finish up Ozark season 2, finish up Castle Rock. Those are the two most important. I haven't been back to the theater in a couple weeks now, and there's like 3 movies that are out now. Like Predator's out, so I wanted to go see that one. Peppermint came out last week, wanted to go see that one. Still haven't seen Black Klansman. So I have 3 or 4 movies that are legitimately at the theaters right now. I don't know how long they're going to be there, and I want to try to get them before they're out. And now that kind of past the wedding, I can get the wedding stuff done and go out and see something. So in terms of TV, Ozark and Castle Rock, and then whatever else from there.
Both of these movies are actually playing at it's I Want to See the Wife and The Bookshop. Those are the 2 I want to see.
The Wife and The Bookshop. What are they?
They're 2 different movies. The Wife is Glenn Close.
Oh, at the Little.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want to see that and finish up my book. And
so they're small market theaters.
Oh my God.
No.
And then I guess finish up Castle Rock and finish up Ozark. Yeah.
So we should have a wonderful discussion about Ozark and Castle Rock next show.
Yeah.
I also have Orange is the New Black is still left to finish. I think I'm halfway through the last season.
I think we're done then, right? Is everybody... do you have one that you're looking forward to finishing?
Well, right now I'm watching The 100 on Netflix. My son has watched all of them. He is now sitting nicely and watching it with his father and I. And we're in season 2. I'm hooked. It's one of those that I think I can't not watch the next episode.
What was the last season that they just put out? Was it 4?
6.
6. Oh my gosh.
I think.
All right, so I watched all the way through season 5 up to the last finale episode. I missed the finale, and I haven't gone back up or watched this past season yet.
So I'm hooked on it. I guess I'm going to have to go watch Lost in Space on my own, because since I've been here, they finished up the first season of Lost in Space. And I said, well, was it good? And they said, very good. And
solid show.
The last
really
one, they said the last episode was like, okay. So now I have to go see it because they've seen it. So, and we started a mission this summer to watch all of the Marvel Universe shows and movies in chronological order.
Oh.
And
there's your sister.
The movies and
the Netflix
including
shows
Agents
and
of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yes, including Agents of
Wow.
S.H.I.E.L.D. and the
My mother is doing
Hulu,
this.
yeah, Hulu shows, all of this. And
That's
some
a
of them,
lot of time in front of the TV.
it is. We've spent a lot of time in front of the television this summer, and we just finished up. What's funny is we knew this was going to happen to us. We are now up to where Ant-Man and Wasp chronologically happen, and we can't watch it anywhere until it comes out streaming, and it's not there yet, and it doesn't come out till October.
You've gone through and caught up on everything.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Nice.
impressive.
Yes. So we're
I
at
didn't finish watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. until like 3 weeks ago.
We have 3 episodes left because they are at the end after Infinity. Yeah. So, yeah. And so my daughter, Mackenzie's been watching it with us too. And she is just livid. She's, why can't we watch Ant-Man and Wasp now? I said, because it's not when it's supposed to be. We're going to watch it when it's supposed to be.
We watched Ant-Man and Wasp.
So we're in limbo right now waiting on that so that we can finish everything else. But
Impressive.
Isn't that strange?
That is
that we're
impressive.
sisters. Mm-hmm. So different.
Okay. Tony, where can we find you?
I'm on Facebook and on Instagram at SMTORCHIO. I opened my Instagram, so if you want to hit me up, hit me up.
Don't hit too hard.
Yes, please don't.
Valerie?
I'm on Phoebe Vidmar on Twitter. That's it.
Kendra's Wendy.
yes, that's okay.
Way to go.
It's okay. I'm related.
It was the look you just gave was a hacker look through and through because I saw it in Kendra, I saw it in you, and I've seen it in you. It's just
I'm not a hacker.
But we're all related.
Bennington, sorry.
That line, yes. And I'm on Instagram as just Wendy Hacker, all one word.
Awesome. I am GF Media or GF Media CEO pretty much anywhere. You can find me as either. You can find us at Cultural Stew Net on Twitter, Cultural Stew on Facebook, and culturalstew.net, where we update the podcasts and pretty much nothing else. So,
Working on it.
yeah, we might get rid of our review side. Well, we've got to talk about that. But anyways, that's where the feed comes through. Get a hold of us. Let us know how we're doing. If you're listening, if you're leaving us, why you're leaving us. We want to know something, anything. Catch you later.
The intro and break music is Please Listen Carefully by Jazir, available through the Creative Commons license from Free Music Archive. The outgoing music is provided by Epidemic Sound. Please see our show notes for details on what the outgoing song is and who it is by. And also, as always, if you have a piece of music that you'd like us to play or consider playing, please contact us today. Like what you've heard? Want to continue to hear more? Please consider Patreon. What is Patreon, you ask? Patreon is a content creator support site, a way for people to support the things they love and allow creators to continue creating the content that they love. Please consider heading over to patreon.com/gfmedia and becoming a Patreon supporter today.